So it's all good? Yeah. You're looking good, Rav Shai. Okay. Am I on? Do you just say something so I can check the sound?
Hello, testing, testing.
Okay. You ready?
Morning, Shaik up in here. The Alshech Shul. We are studying the Sefer from the Maharab in Prague called Hassidut Olam, and we are in the Nasiv of the Torah, Perek Dalet, in the middle of the Perek. So he starts like this. This is Perek Elu Trefus. In Chulam, Masachos Chilin, there's a Perek Elu Trefus. Omar Rabbi Chizda. Eze Talmid Chochem Haroya Trefa La'atzmoi. So who is considered a Talmid Chochem is a person who sees his own faults, basically. The Omar Rabbi Chizda, Eze Soine Matuna is Yichya. So we have a pasuk that says a person who hates gifts lives. In other words, it's a good attribute to not want to receive gifts from others. Zeharoya treifa la'atzmoi. This is the same expression. Also, a person who sees his own faults. Durish bar zitra b'shmei Rav Chizda. Kol mi shekoire l'shoyne v'roya treifa la'atzmoi. V'shimish tamei chochem alav akusel oimer yegia kapeta kisoifel ashrecha v'toiv lach. He says, this is also in the name of Rav Chizda, that a person who learns and goes over it again and also sees his own faults, and he serves a Talmid Chochem. Shimish Talmid Chochem can mean that he's actually serving his needs. It could simply mean that he's learning from him. The Pasuk says about such a person, unless if he exerts himself, he will reap the benefits from it. He will be happy and good things will happen to him. So he says about such a person that he merits to inherit two worlds. This world and the next world. So when he says Alshech Academy, he's talking about Alshech is Olam Hazeh. In this world he's happy, and Toivlach Olam Habu, and he gets all the benefits of the world to come as well. Reish Alva says, since Rabbi Eliezer, Ki Hoyu, no. Rabbi Eliezer, what is it now? Ki Hoyu Mishadrele Mibe Nesia Midi Loishuki. So when it's again, Rosh Hashanah is Reish Aleph, so if that Aleph is Eliezer or Eluzah. When they used to send him something from the house of the prince, or the royalty or whatever, they sent him a gift or something, he wouldn't take it. And when they invited him to go to the palace or whatever, he didn't go. Wait a second. Yeah. Okay. He didn't go. Omar loy hui mar de achya shenemar v'soine matunas yichya. So they bring from Rav Zera that when they would send him something, he wouldn't take it. So it's the idea of the same. But when they invited him to come, he did accept the invitation. He did go. Omar isyakida hi isyakida isyakra bi ad kam. Bi is that. So we can explain that what it means. Ki Talmud Chacham yesh loy haskel asher hi pushet legamri v'hapushet eino mekabel klal rak oimed ba'atzmi. So the Talmud Chacham has an intellect which is pushet legamri. It's simple. It's not, I guess, many ways of explaining pushet as being not complicated or being, direct, like in one direction without having a number of different aspects to it. Pushet is simple. Pushet eino mekabel klal rak oimed ba'atzmi. And that which is pushet, or something which is basically one indivisible thing. It's not something that can be divided up. So that is not makabel. It doesn't receive anything from the outside. It's independent. It's like it can stand on its own. So this pushet and mirkel basically opposites. Pushet is something which is single. It's one piece. It's one klal. Let's say actually it's something that is complete in itself. And it's not made up of putting together various elements. So it's more of this idea of you taking several different things and you're putting together so that it becomes a whole from the sum of the parts. So it's something that could be divided up. So he says, called Mikabo, anyone that receives from someone else, he can make it. It's like something that's just sum of parts, and it's able to put together from various different elements. So therefore, if you take an element from the outside, you can fuse it into the whole that's there, because it's not something since it's already made up of parts. So if you add something to it, you're just adding to the cloud that's already there. It's not a steer. It's not a contradiction to the essence of the thing itself. Kashin Mikabo, the Roy Torah Atzmoy, the Oisra, Eino Mikabo. So that's Kashahi Mekabel. Okay, so that's one statement. So that's but Merkav is able to be Mekabel from somebody else. The Areya Terefa the Atzmoy the Oisra Eine Mekabel Afilim in Dover Shehi Shaloi. No, this is complicated. Well, the problem is that there's no punctuation here, so it's difficult to break it up into the all the sentences to be read. Because in the Kabbalah, the person who sees fault in himself, that oisra, and he doesn't allow it, einoi mekabel afilim in dover shehi shaloi. So he's not even mekabel from something that belongs to him. She'einoi mitzadir lahater hatrefa shehi shaloi. Because I think what he's getting at here is that if a person is critical of himself, so he doesn't, the very fact that he owns something and he has something is not enough to allow him to take advantage of it. It's something that he's going to allow himself to use unless he knows that that's something, just the fact that he is that way or that he has a particular midah, he has a particular attribute, does not necessarily mean that he's going to say that's a good thing, that's something that's proper to use. He's going to evaluate. He's going to be always critical of himself and deciding just because I'm this way does not mean that I should be this way. It's something I have to evaluate and decide whether I'm going to use that out or not. It might be an attribute that I have to distance myself from, or something I should not be acting that way. It's not a heter for myself that I am that way. I have to decide, is this a good way to be or not? So on the one, so he's not only critical of things that he's receiving from somebody else in terms of saying just because somebody is giving me this doesn't mean I should take it. Something I have to decide, is this going to be appropriate to take or not? Or in general, maybe just the very fact that he's giving it to me is something I shouldn't be taking. But certainly, even for himself, he could decide that he doesn't want to take what he has for himself. So such a person is Poshet Gamri, Kenan She'ein Shayach Boy Kabbalah. He's not receiving in general. What I'm getting at here is that when a person looks at his own midas, his own character, and he just takes that as a given, like it's something that he received, that he was born that way, that this is his nature, this is the way he is. So that's an idea of a person that is taking what he has and accepting it because he has it, basically. But such a person that's critical even of himself to the point where he's not even accepting something that he's born with, let's say, or something that's part of his nature, so then he's considered Pushet Lagamri. He doesn't take from anything without evaluating, without deciding that this is something that he wants to be that way or receive that midah, whatever. He's always critical of the situation of what he has or is. And such a person is called Talmud. He's not taking anything for as a given. So in other words, the seichel is the intellect which demands that he puts everything under scrutiny. He scrutinizes everything about his life. He's not taking anything for granted, he's not taking anything as a given. He's deciding whether, according to his seichel, that's something he should be using out or not. Gashmi achumri mekabel, ve'asichli einu mekabel. So he pushes. So I make a general statement. So he's saying in general that that gashmis, the physical world, is mekabel. You can fit something in, you can fuse something into an existing thing. In general, it's accepting. Accepting means mekabel means accepting. It's accepting things from somewhere else and putting it together, and that's the way it is. Whereas, as opposed to the seichel is something which is not mekabel anything, and it's only something that if it's true and it fits and it works in the framework that's already there, then it would accept that thought because it's already consistent with what it already is. It's not bringing in something from the external source. So a person who's not giving himself the benefit of the doubt. He's not saying, that if I'm doing it already, so it must be okay, or at least, assuming that there is a tzad l'hatir, that there's a way to allow for it, whatever, to give him the permission to do that. And instead of that, he's dafka looking for treifel atzmo. He's judging himself critically and saying this is probably not appropriate, or is the tzadid lahati or the tzadid la'esor. It means that what is his inclination? Is he inclining to give himself permission for things and that it's just let it by, or if it's not explicitly forbidden, or is he going to assume that it's something that probably is not appropriate for him, and that only after a great deal of scrutiny would he decide that would be something that he would allow himself. So he says, it was to the point where he's not going to allow himself such a thing unless it comes to the point that he should not be considered a makabel because he's doing this thing. In other words, if it's something that's an outgrowth of who he is, what he's doing already, what's consistent with his outlook, consistent with him as a person. But that's something that's already consistent. Then it would be something that doesn't look like something he took from somewhere else, that he was accepting from somebody else. Something that's an outgrowth of his own development, or it's consistent with who he is already. But if it's something that looks like he took it from somewhere else, it's not consistent with with his what he's doing already, his outlook and who he is, then he's going to reject it. This is what a Talmud Chacham is. So he's sichli because again, everything is subject to the intellect. There's no we call it there's no what is that called? There's no reason to accept something just because it's easier that way. Some other external type of some words to say it. It's something that there's an external reason why he would allow himself to do something like that, or to accept such a thing, even if it's not really ozgal, as I say, that it's something that's not really consistent, I'll be safe through the intellect, but it's something that you see has a tendency, it's easy or whatever, to go along with it. But it's not something that stands up to that rigorous type of analysis and evaluation that the seichel would require. So Talmud Chochan is a person that doesn't let himself get away with anything like that. He's not just looking for an easy way out, or for hetevim, for things that to allow himself to do things outside of this type of analysis that also seichel. Then you say from the Kabalah the Gashmias is accepting things outside of seichel, meaning that they don't make sense, but it does it anyway because it's easier, it's more convenient, it's whatever other terutzim, kind of answers, even excuses one would give oneself to be able to be lenient about things, but he doesn't allow himself that. Rav Chizda Oimer, Eze Soine Matunas Yichya, Kimisha Soine as a Matunas, Rui Shiyeh Bishvil Zeh Chai. So what is it about a person who doesn't like taking gifts, or he doesn't feel comfortable, or whatever, he doesn't take gifts from other people, and that he should be called chai, that he's living on a higher level, or a higher level of life because of the fact that he doesn't take these gifts. So he makes a very strong statement here, and he says in the Kabul that the person who's accepting something from someone else is not, life itself is not rui for him. It's not something that he's really observes, in a sense, because the chai or the atzma, because something that's alive is standing on its own. Something that it's independent. It's not. If it has an aspect of life for itself, and its life is not dependent on something else, so then it's standing independently. And in order to stand independently, he can't be dependent on taking things from others. So they make the statement that a poor person is considered like he's dead, because he's dependent on others. He's not standing on his own, not standing on his own 2 feet, as they say. So therefore, a person who's dependent on others, his life is not his own. And you see this also because a person who's dependent on others, then he is indebted to them, and he's beholden to them, and he's very often controlled by them because they have a say in his life because of the fact that they're supporting him. So doesn't have this independent life of his own. A person who doesn't want to be dependent on anyone else and doesn't want to even take from anyone else, and he's standing independently on his own, without taking from someone else, that's the life. And the fact is that people who are like that, who have that attribute of being totally independent, for them to take from others is like they are taking something away from their life. Their life is not their own. They're somehow connected now. They're dependent on others. Now they have to consider what somebody else is going to say or whatever, as opposed to their having total control of their own being. So he talks about, he brings a mashal, an example from the concept of a spring, a well, a spring of water that is flowing from its own source. It's not makabel, but very often there are water, bodies of water that are receiving the flow of water from somewhere else. There could be a spring that's feeding the lake or whatever, or there could be some kind of a river that's coming into a lake or whatever. It's receiving the water source from somewhere else. It's not coming from itself. But a Mayan, a spring, is its own source. So therefore, it's called Mayan Chaim. It's called the word Chaim, life, is ascribed to such a phenomenon, that water source. So therefore, it becomes the idea of Chaim is associated with something which is independent and has its own source of life. It's not receiving that love from someone else. So it goes back to this concept again that Sonny Matunas Yichya. What does that have to do with how are the two things connected? The fact that he's a Sonny Matunas Yichya, that he's going to start to live by more or whatever, a higher level, or his life is going to be different because he's Sonny Matunas, because he's not willing to take gifts from somebody else. That is associated with the person doctor who's really who's critical of himself, because if he's critical of himself, again, he doesn't take anything as a given. He's not making excuses for himself, and he's not, giving a tatum to himself that he should be able to take from someone else. Instead, he's everything that he has or acquires is dependent on it being consistent intellectually with everything else that he's doing. So he's totally independent, because it's something he could have, he didn't have to take from somebody else. He could have often figured it out on his own. So it's not he's taking it because someone's giving him, and he's dependent now on that other person, or he's beholden to the other person. So even things of his own, he's always reevaluating if that's really appropriate for him to do. He doesn't want anything that doesn't belong to him. He's not, a lot of times people make heter of themselves to do things for monetary reasons, because there's a loss involved, it's difficult or whatever, there's some kind of a financial aspect there. So he's saying that he's not chas al mumon, he's not worried about his money, and therefore he's going to do something that's inappropriate just for the money. So he's not taking the whole idea of the standings myself, the idea of kabel shoichet. So what's the idea of a person is taking a bribe to do something which can maybe not be honest? So it's a good example of a person is taking from others to do something which is not appropriate for him to do, and he's going to always try to find heter, try to find rationalizations why it would be okay. But really, if he would go the other way and then try to find reasons why it's not appropriate, which is the idea of roya trefel atzmoy, he's always looking for the side to say that it's not proper to do. So because he's not concerned about financial loss or whatever. So Moshe Makabel Plasha, if you the dover shehi shayach loy eino roitze the kabel the oyser hatrefa the kach ne'ema ulam soinim atulis yichya. So they talk about this idea of the example of the oyster treifa, because the treifa very often there's ways to be matir. You see an animal is not shechted properly, whatever. So you could be lenient and you could say, it's okay, there's a head for that or whatever. Or you could be dafka, asking it. You're forbidding it to be eaten because you say that there's something that's wrong, and you're going more towards the chimra. The Omar call me Shesoine the Shimish to Shoine, the Shimish Tamifochan, the Veroya Trefel Atzmoy, Ulavakusvoime. So then we talk about the person that has a few of these attributes together, that he is learning and serving Tamifochan, and besides that he's the Veroya Trefel Atzmoy. So it's also connected with the idea of the intellect, because he is connected to the intellect. All of his shpur comes through the intellect. Therefore, he's going to seek out Talmidei Chachamim to serve, to get benefit from their knowledge, and to help them, or whatever, and so he can learn from them, or to be connected with them. The lo yamasheh usek b'mitzvahs, and it doesn't say dafka that such a person is oisik b'mitzvahs. So why didn't he mention that? So it's because it's ascribing this pasuk to him. The effort of your hands, you're eating through the effort of your hands, then it's going to be good for you. So Yagia ba'omo is the effort that a person puts on. Shayach ba'omo Torah. So he says that in Torah it's appropriate to use, it fits to use the expression of Yagia, talking about the effort that you have to put out. So it says that the person is born to work, to work hard, to put out effort. It'll be good for you in this world and in the next world. It's all dependent, to say that it's going to be good for a person is dependent on this concept of connected to the intellect. You're not just looking to benefit from this world, from the physical world, because if you might say that it would be good for you in this world if you look up for your physical needs, but if but it doesn't work for Olam Haba, because what benefit do you have in the next world for what you're worrying about the physical needs in this world? So obviously it must be talking about the intellect, because that's both good for you in this world and in the next world. So again, we come back to this idea of pshitas, that it's like a kind of a one single-minded type of mahalach, of a system that he's using in how he approaches life, an attitude in terms of how he approaches life, is being totally dependent on it being consistent and making sense according to seichel, and not taking into consideration other considerations that could contradict that. So the kabbalah is saying midas sichlis, al midas zois, bifrat nema ashrecha ba'olam hazeh, toivach ba'olam habu. Why is that specifically talking about the seichel? Al yuda, al yidei midas zois, zoich ba'olam hazeh, uda ba'olam habu, uda hazeh, uda ba'olam. It's a long explanation to explain exactly how that works and why that's the fact that it's Olam Haba and Olam Hazeh is dependent on the seichel. There's more discussion of this in Perek Ben Zoyma. V'gam b'nesiv ha'istapris mizbur. So in the Sefer, there's a section related to the midah of histapris, which is generally like the person is happy with what he has. The asher chelkot, asher zoiche el madrega hamal zois. So a person who is on the level to have acquired that midah, or maybe he's talking about histapris. He's talking about probably this thing we're talking about with the Holy Alshech Shul. So if he's attained this level, it's considered he's very fortunate to have attained that level. So if he's saying this whole thing is this is how we define a Talmid Chacham. Talmid Chacham is a person who has acquired this midah, who lives like this. He says, unfortunately, there are not too many people that could be considered to be Talmid Chacham on this level. Talmid Chacham al kol lui loy inesapshitas mefrat. So he says that overall, over everything else, let's say, this midah of pshitas, of being single-mindedly connected to the seichel, is probably the most important attribute of Talmid Chacham. That's what we're saying, that this is what is called the Talmid Chacham. We're defining the Talmid Chacham with this attribute. Midas pshitas she'ena mekabel klal. A person who has this midah pshitas where he's not mekabel anything from external sources. Shehi yadiyah the Torah. We're talking about the Torah is what's determining his life, and not other things that he's taken from somewhere else. Shehi yadiyah ki kol hamekabel he chomri gashmi, so that everything that is makabel is emphasizing the physical. Shehaseichel he pushet ain't a makabel. So in the seichel, because it's only rigorously rejecting things that are not consistent with the seichel, so therefore it's not makabel. The atuvlan hazeh nepachadug. Today in our days it's reversed. That unfortunately, according to our Vedas, the Shechayshim ki gedish of Talmud Chacham sheyakabel. So today we think of this idea of the gedish of Talmud Chacham that he should daft to be makabel, and this is part of the argument probably that people have. There was a long time they didn't want the concept of a koil. The one were against the idea of a koil, because the koil is the idea that the person is sitting and learning, but he's taking money for it from those that support the koil. So then he becomes a makabel. Is that the person ultimately the ideal thing is that a Talmud Chacham should be self-supporting. That's why in many places it says that a person is supposed to it's supposed to be working. Right? That's not working just to make money because the goal is to make money, but he should be supporting himself. And most of the early Talmud Chacham, New York Sandler, various examples of Talmud Chacham that had a trade, and they supported themselves through their trade, honest workers. And the time they had, which was the majority of the day, they only worked the minimum just to support themselves, and the majority of the more time they had, most time they had possible was spent learning. Later on, it became like the 8-hour day and everything, and then in order to have a job, it was like you barely had any time to learn at all. And the Chachamim decided that it's better that the Talmud Chacham should be supported by the community because they simply would be able to devote themselves to learning much more. In the early days, it was like I think the Rambam says about the person who's working is like a third of his time is working, and a third of his time is learning is like mamish equal of learning time and working time. So today, it seems to be very, very difficult to keep that up. The Vadai there was a nimshach el limideni she'ili hoya al nimit shel dor zeh kasher hi lui el Talmud Chacham. It says that if in this generation, in his own generation, that it would be appropriate, what's appropriate for Talmud Chacham, Haishon havasemi b'masim v'siachsim v'fi haseichel gamkin. The diet is emshemakim. So if we would act in this area like in a way that's appropriate for Talmud Chacham, our actions would also be done according to Sefer. Unfortunately, it's not like that. But we're not going to continue in that because we just want to be too critical. Still a few more minutes. Okay. Kvarman. So I was going to go with something, another Indian here. Ki udam asher he writes the Kabalah Torah, rui shieloi hachuna el haTorah hasifus. So in order for a person to be in the Kabalah Torah, the thing that's supposed to be in the Kabalah, it's important, it's appropriate that a person should prepare himself for the Torah in an intellectual way. And unless he prepares himself, he's not going to be zoicha to actually be able to Kabalah Torah, which is sifus, which is something that involves the intellect. He says that he's taking the whole approach here that they're really kind of mutually exclusive. In other words, I'd say maybe the Hasidim were more into the idea of integrating, later than this, integrating the Torah and mitzvahs and this kind of thing with the Gashmis, that you can elevate the Gashmis through the mitzvahs and the Torah. He's not taking that approach here. He's saying that basically a person who is involved with Gashmis to the degree that he's involved with the physical world, that is going to separate him from the Torah. So it could be talking about that a person is into Gashmis, and a person is megushin, he's become more coarse, more he's more into the physical world, and that physical world, as we said, because the physical world has its own demands and it has its own preferences and its own tendencies. Just al pi teva, according to the nature of man, and then talk about the nefesh Bahamas, that there's a animal soul, something that is coming from the animal side of the person, which is without intellect. So that draws him away from the seichel. It very often contradicts the seichel. So for a person has to separate himself to a certain extent from those physical needs, so that he'll be able to allow the intellect to be the aspect of himself that actually controls and makes the decisions, the dominating force. So the ikar achuna hazois, because if a person, the fact is that if a person learns Torah, and if the Torah is telling him in an intellectual way that certain things are right to do and certain things are not, the tendency is going to be, if he's in the knows this about themselves, the tendency is that, again, to be melamed schis on oneself. The person wants to look at himself as doing the right thing, he's okay. I'm okay, you're okay, whatever. The tendency is to justify ourselves. So we are going to very often bend what the Torah says and say, well, the Torah really means this. If it's going to be in a way that's going to justify what I'm doing already. So, because I don't want to say I'm wrong. So which is exactly what he was talking about here. So the person doesn't want to say they're wrong. Now, the person wants to say, yes, I'm wrong. This is something I shouldn't be doing, because he's royal treifel asma. He sees his own faults and his own shortcomings, and he's not afraid of that. So here you're talking about the more a person is in the Gashmias, the more he's going to try to justify that he should be able to do the Gashmias things that he wants to do, even if it's not so much al pi Torah. Anyway, the ikar achuna, or bend the Torah itself, is as if the Torah is giving him a permission to do so. The ikar achuna hazoi sheyeh doima in the siachas the seichel legamri. So the more he attaches himself and sees his own mahis, his own who he is, as being his own essence, as being connected to the seichel doctrine. So when a person is misiachas, and he associates himself with a certain thing, then he's going to be together with that thing. He sees himself in the light of that thing. So if a person sees himself as being connected to the seichel, as being his essence, then he'll be able to coexist together with the seichel. You feel that the seichel is his source. Mipnei a seichel hi im ha'udam ve'ein seichel mitba ba'udam. So this is making this distinction here. He's saying that the seichel is something which is with the person, but not planted within the person. In other words, it's not something that it's something he has to acquire. It's something he has to want to be attached to. It's something. It's a little bit on the external to the point that it has to be acquired, as opposed to something that is just natural with the person. Mitba, the teva. He says the seichel is by nature something which is separate from the person. So if a person is on the level of the seichel to the point where other people, or rather in relation to other people, he's much more connected or on the level of the intellect than other people are. It's better that he should not be so closely connected with those kinds of people if they're going to actually draw him in the other direction. So, 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I'll try to restart the next section. Fair case of Avin, Omar Rabbi Eliezer, my dixiv anukim legarda receptor. So he asked, what is the Tosif talks about that the Torah is like a necklace around the neck of the person. Ima uda mesim asmaka anak surah l'tzavar sherafet tzavar Sheroya ve'enoi nira, talmid miskayim. In lav, ein talmid miskayim. So if a person puts himself like this I think that Anik is talking about a type of necklace which is sometimes concealed by either by the neck itself, the flesh of the neck, or maybe by some other garment, whatever. So if he makes himself in such a way that it's roya ve'einu nira, it's seen and not seen, so that conceals itself to some extent, not completely maybe. The Yira Perishon, the meaning of this is explanation ki onak dova b'tzavar bihi rufa, or raf b'tzavar, something that it's the eno odik ima tzavar. It's rufa is loose around the neck and not tight around the neck. So he's using it as a example of the relationship between the Talmid Chacham and the rest of the people. It shouldn't be so close with him. Just like the necklace is loose and it's kind of hanging, but it's not so closely fit to the neck. He should see other people, be conscious of other people, be aware of other people, and not separate them altogether. Actually, to the point where he doesn't care about them, or he doesn't take notice of their needs or whatever. So obviously, he has to be conscious of them, and has to be watching them and seeing if he can help them, whatever, but not to be so closely associated with them that he becomes part of their circle, and then he be influenced by that. Actually, so you see others, so you should be taking note of them. But he's not seen among them, so that's the idea of he's seen and not seen. He sees them, but on the other hand, he's not seen among them. If he does that, then his learning will be preserved. As long as he's able to keep that connection with the Seichel, the Torah as a sikhistic thing, as an intellectual thing, will be preserved. The Seichel, which stands with the person, it clings to the person as a closest to the person. And not to the point where the intellect is completely connected to the body, because then it will be influenced by the body. This is exactly how the Talmid Chacham should be connected with other people. The middle of the Bria is separate from the Bria, but not completely. They should be connected to them. They shouldn't be so closely associated. So it would be kind of similar to the idea that the Seichel becomes one with the physical. Because if they're so closely associated, it's going to be, you're not going to be able to acquire the intellectual aspect of the Torah. So if he acts like this, his Torah will be preserved. The way that the Talmud is associated with other people should be similar to the way the Seichel is connected with the body. And the Torah will be able to be one with him.
Rabbi, I have a crazy question to ask you. The way I put things together sometimes Even Hashem gets a kick out of it.
Okay.
Would it be for some people an advantage to be really rich to be a Talmid Chacham because they don't have to work? Or would that?
It's their word, they were rich, so it's not a contradiction.
Okay.
The problem comes when a person says to himself, I'm not a Talmid Chacham now, but I want to become really rich so that then I'll be able to become a Talmid Chacham.
That's a problem?
That's a problem. Because then he's saying that you have to work so hard to become rich that who knows if I'm actually going to become rich or not. Who knows also if when I become rich, that my attention is going to be so much on all my properties, things like that, it's going to take away the time that I'm not going to be able to become a Talmid Chacham anyway. It usually doesn't work to keep that attitude. If you already inherited wealth from somewhere else, and then you're not going to say that, well, you have to give away everything or whatever in order to be Talmid Chacham. It's not taking too much attention.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you. And I apologize for having breakfast while I was listening. Well, I would like to try that system. I would like to become very rich and then become a Talmid Chacham.
Yeah, it's not encouraged. I know some other people have had that.
Well, there's always a first. Always a first.
Okay.
But when you are Talmid Chacham, then you are already rich.
Right?
Yes, well put. Well put.
Okay, so you let me know then.
Yeah, we'll do it for Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday was it? Tuesday.
That's an excellent picture, but I still believe there's a whole lot more they're gonna find before we get there.
What is it?
They showed an amazing picture when they went into Rafa, into
Sure.
you got,
Oh, this is from Anra.
Yeah. That they are,
Yeah.
it's a cover up, against
How do they explain that?
They can't. I don't know first said that in school.
And this whole thing that they cut the casualty figures in half now?
Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable. I'm just saying all along. It's
Yeah.
probably much less than that also.
Probably.
Because they have no way of knowing.
Probably.
It's a numbers. Crazy stuff. Okay, cool. Is there any water on here?
Yeah. What do you hear? The cups are over there. Take a seat. Make sure.
Hot seat.
Yeah.
The hot seat.
Great. Okay. So, Shlomo, will you just turn the video on when we start?
oh,
Okay. Thank you. That's fine.
Yeah?
Okay.
You want me to switch it on?
When Elad is ready.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
So I'm delighted to welcome Elad Ben Elul back to our Alshech Academy. And you have just written this booklet, To Win a War. And this is the book that we're going to be talking about. Would you just remind us what motivated you to write this book?
So I wrote a book with Rabbi Manis Friedman based on his lessons to Israelis. It was kind of making his lessons available. It's what we spoke about last time, and it was a success. And we also do regular Zoom lessons, and after October 7th, we did lots of Zoom lessons, and a lot of people used to come in, and we had like 200 people in the Zoom, and the Rabbi Manis was really explaining the spiritual side of the political and military and global occurrences, and it was very powerful stuff. Clear, reasonable, kind of basic knowledge, but that's the thing, sometimes we don't even have the basic knowledge. And then his son actually, a few weeks after, he told me that American Jews and Jews in England, they're in a kind of an awkward situation because there's so much hatred and anti-Semitism, and there's so much blame towards them, and they don't really know what to respond, and they don't really have the tools and the language to explain their side. So why not take the knowledge that we are describing in the lessons and create some sort of guide for the perplexed, something to help them throughout this time, how to cope with anti-Semitism, what is Israel, what is Palestine, the most basic questions. So we set like pretty intensely. I just interviewed him, asked him a few questions, created like a structure that I would imagine would be a good background and the most important tools that one should have. And we published the book very quickly.
When did you publish it?
It was really about 3 months after the war broke. So it was written during the war, and it was published during the war, and it was really quickly, went on #1 on Amazon on Kabalah and Mystic Books. Was #1.
Amazing.
Which was a surprise. It was good, and Israelis then said, we want it as well. So I started translating. When I translated, I was actually a bit like worried, because suddenly putting it in Hebrew it sounded very intense. In Israel, everything is intense. Everything is politically loaded and socially inflammable, and suddenly I can't say that. For English Americans, it was fine. It sounded like also really academic, the language, it's fine, but when you write it in Hebrew, it becomes too real. So then I realized this is powerful stuff, actually. I kind of expanded a bit more and lightened it a bit more and made sure that nothing is misunderstood, so the Hebrew book is even more kind of like enhanced. I also gave a few people to read it, even from center left, to people to make sure that it goes through their throat, and the reactions were really good. And then we published the Hebrew book just now, when Rabbi Manis was in Israel now last week, so we published that book, the Hebrew booklet.
Amazing. So let's go straight into it, because there's so much to discuss here. And you've got some great questions at the beginning, and I'd like to start with the first one. What is Israel's divine purpose? Tell us a little bit about what you've learned of our purpose here.
So, for me, growing up in a secular Zionist education system, I was always told that the main purpose of Israel is just to shelter us from hatred and violence. The main purpose is to just protect us from the hatred of the world. But as you begin to learn Torah, and especially Hassidus, because not that Hassidus brings anything new, but it's about what it put the focus on. You realize that the land of Israel, the state of Israel, has a role in the entire creation. Mamlechet Kohanim, Goy Kadosh. So the role of Israel is to really be a light for the nations, which means it's supposed to be a model for what society should look like and behave, like the perfect moral, ethical, spiritual, social model for how a state can be. And the idea is that eventually people will start to be so inspired by it that they will want to learn, how do you do this? And it's happening in a way.
Well, we see that in Korea. Korea wants to study Talmud because they see the
Mhm.
success of Israel. It's quite amazing.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of, alongside all the noise of the hatred, you can definitely see that people are kind of looking at us, especially Europe, regarding family and children and the relation to birth. And because in Europe, even in places that are more Mediterranean, like Italy, the children are not needed anymore. People don't want to have children, which shows some sort of despair from life itself, from existence itself.
Right.
And then they look at us and say, what is it about you that you love having kids, you love life, you love families, and it doesn't matter how difficult life is for you. It's not that you had the best life, it's not that it's the easiest to be a Jew, and yet you are always for life. So that's one example of how the curiosity awakes and they want to look at us and see what are we doing. So the role of Israel is to really become that model.
Mm. It's interesting that the recent survey on the happiest people in the world, amongst the youngest population, Israel came number 2. So that's pretty good.
Wow.
Okay, so let's talk about the point that I want to talk about is something that is a bit very difficult to understand from a Western point of view, and that is the nature of the Jewish soul, and why would a Jewish soul be any different from a non-Jewish soul? We're all Bnei Adam, we're all from the same source, so what is this idea that we are somehow different?
It is incredibly difficult to communicate it, you're right, and sometimes I have students that even after a year or two will still say something like, yes, but I can't think of myself as better than anyone else, different than anyone else. We all have the godly spark, we all have this, and
Right.
it's really something that I don't think we would have been able to come up with ourselves, or if we would have announced it about ourselves and decide or claim this title, then it would be a sign that it's probably a mistake or some sort of narcissistic disorder.
Right.
But we're actually, the way we respond to it, most Jews is like, no, we're just like you.
We want to be like you.
So that fact that we actually avoid it, I think shows that
Right.
it's real. But the idea is that really, how do we define a Jew? Is a Jew someone who was born into Judaism? That can be a definition because you can convert. Is a Jew a culture? There are many cultures within Judaism. Is it an ethnic group? Is it a race? Is it a religion? No, because you can be a Jew and be an atheist, and you're still 100% Jewish, not even less, not even 99% Jewish. So what is it? We really struggle to define it. So it's actually the spiritual definition that Hassidut brings, the Book of Tanya, the Baal Shem Tov brings, that gives us a much better clue that Jew has a different spiritual autonomy, because in addition to the soul that every person has, every human being has a soul, and a soul is godly, and a soul is a spark of godly life. A Jew has another extra soul, which is not part of creation. It wasn't created by God per se. It's not something that God spoke into existence. Rather, it is something that was always part of God. So it is not a creation, it is the Creator expressed within the creation. And that's very different. It's a whole different experience, a whole different purpose. So it is a part of God inside a group of people.
And this part was given to the Jewish soul because they were chosen. Is that the God chooses a group of people who He wants to bestow this extra soul to, and then it becomes hereditary?
So this is another thing that we have to understand about the choice of God. If we think about it that way, like it's just a choice out of a few options, it means that the choice can be, first of all, removed or changed. and second of all, that is based on some sort of qualities or conditions or properties that the choice relies on. When we think about God and His choice, it's not like He has options and He's limited to a few options, and then it's like, out of those options, I will choose. Or there's a midrash like this that He's asking all the people, and then, but that's afterwards. But a true choice is actually, it's not freedom of choice, rather it's the freedom from choice. So when you're not limited to any set of possibilities, it can be anything, anyone, whatever, and then this comes to be, it should be a sign that this is what is true. Truth, emet, is something that is not dependent on choice. It's just what is. God is the Jews, the Jewish soul. God is Torah. Torah is God. The Jewish soul is God. So this is just who I am. In a way, it's hard for us to understand because, like, what are you defining God? Are you portraying God in anything? But
and you're
again,
also saying that the Jewish people are God. You know, that's a very
the godly soul. But Oraita v'kuchabrichu kol echad. And the people of Israel, what the Zohar means is that really, essentially, deep inside, God is telling us, I am someone. The fact that I'm above all definition and above all illustration doesn't mean that I'm a statue without any description, without any, that you can't say anything about me, that I can't say anything about myself. I am a living God. And what I want to tell you about myself is that I am Torah, I am the Jews, this is what I love, this is who I am. And when you understand it this way, it becomes very real. It becomes like amazingly real.
So what did He choose the Jewish nation to become?
So when we say choose, it's a choice in a sense that I was not limited to anything, and so this is it. Because imagine if you could choose anything, you would probably be paralyzed. The fact that we choose things, it's almost because there's always something inclining us. I have to choose between this house or this house. Okay, which one is bigger? Which one is cheaper? So I'm not really choosing anything. A human choice is not really a choice. There's always something pushing us towards that choice or that choice. So are we choosing, or something is chosen for us? Whereas for God is a true choice. So a true choice means this is emet, this is true. I could have potentially done anything, so the fact that this is what I choose to express means this is the truest.
Okay, so now let's try to explain to us what is this link between the chosen people, the Jews, and the land of Israel. Why is there such a strong link between the two?
So something really interesting Rabbi Manis brings in the book is that there's something very similar between Israel and the Jews. If you think about all the countries in the world, how did they become countries? How did they come to be states? They were conquered. So a person came, conquered the land, put the flag, and now this is France, now this is Germany, now this is Australia, and that's how a country is born. And yet with Israel we see that people come and they conquer it, and they conquer it, and they rename it, and it remains Israel. Years go by, and layers of history, and more empires, and they try to change it, and they try to, and it remains Israel. Every kid knows where is Israel, and what is Israel. That's Israel, of course, the land of Israel. So it's basic knowledge that just doesn't change. It's an essential thing. So how is it similar to the Jew? A Jew can replace his religion, or think he does, or can stop practicing his religion, or can abandon or think of other things and do other things, and yet he remains a Jew. So it's crazy because the Judaism is not like any other religion. Any other religion, you can decide to be part of the religion. Now I believe in this faith, now I practice this religion, this is now what I am. And now I don't, I abandon this religion, that's it, I have nothing to do with it. I remember I was living in England, and I thought that everyone's Christian, even the ones, the students in university who are not, for me it was like, they're Christian, but no, we're not Christian. For them, it was easy, we're not Christian. In here, even the most, secular, leftist Jew will say, I'm Jewish. He knows that he can't, it's an essential fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's as if the holiness of the Jew and the holiness of Israel have something in common, which is the fact that it's an essential fact of life. It cannot be converted or changed. And again, it's because it's a choice, a true choice, that doesn't rely on conditions.
Right.
So
Unconditional. It's an unconditional status.
exactly. It's such a deep. It precedes creation. So
Right.
nothing in creation can really change it, because
understand.
creation serves that emet.
I understand. So let's go into the conflict, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and really, this is the part of the book that I really appreciated and loved more than anything else, is to really understand the conflict. You have to understand the origin of those trying to create that conflict. In other words, the origins of Christianity, which is Asa, and the origins of the Arab Islamic, which is Ishmael. And I think I'd like to invite you to just talk to us about the difference between those two and how their characteristics has changed over the millennium in their approach to Judaism.
Yes. So we see that the two ultimate enemies of the Jewish people throughout history are really Ishmael and Esau, the descendants of Ishmael and the descendants of Esau. But we also see that they have a different agenda or a different style of how they hate or how they express their hate. So with Esau, we see that really he didn't want to eliminate Yaakov or kill him or kill the Jews. Rather, it's about expressing power over him and showing himself and showing the world that he is the ruler. So Esau is a hunter, and what a hunter usually does is when he kills the deer, he will hang the head of the deer to show, because there's a lot of expression of power. In a way, if there are no more deers and the hunter cannot hunt anymore, he cannot show his power, so he depends on the deer. He needs the deer to be there so that he can show. So you see, for example, in the Titus gate, they're carving and showing how they took the menorah and the treasures of the temple, that really exposing and exhibiting, that's the word, exhibiting their violence, their abuse. It's something that they want to show. And in many ways it shows that the Christian fantasy is not a fantasy of annihilation. They don't want to completely kill until Jews don't exist. Rather, they want to subvert the Jew and show that they are now the chosen, they are now the powerful, and the Jew is beneath them. So that's one style of hatred.
And it links with the bracha that Yitzchak gave Asa, that you will only rule over Yaakov when Yaakov is sort of misbehaving.
Yes, exactly.
So it's all to do with that conquer and power and influence. And it's interesting that the Vatican always had their 36 Jews that they kept safe and protected, precisely for that reason, because they always wanted to retain an element of Judaism that was very important to them. So that's
wow.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like when one is up, one is down. So I want to be up, and
Right.
that's how I express my power. With Ishmael, we see something else. We basically see a claim for Jewish identity that is much more total. It's complete. So basically, Ishmael says to Yitzchak, "I'm the true inheritor of the land. I'm the true descendant of Abraham who should get the blessing, who should get the land, because I am first of all the firstborn. So obviously I get the precedent. I'm the firstborn. I did."
But there's also, I want to just interject that the firstborn in Jewish law always got double what the others. He's a bechor.
Mhm.
Who is
Bechor.
bechor. So he has a something to his claim.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he did his Brit Milah in a much later age. He was 13, which means he did a bit of an akedah. For him, in his mind, in the Midrash, he says, I did an akedah because this was painful, it was out of choice, I really sacrificed myself for this. So he has claims that are beyond, it's claims that actually say, I am the right inheritor.
Right.
Also, the fact that he believes in one God, that he prays 3 times, 5 times even, the monotheism, the keeping the tradition of Abraham, if it's Achnasat Orchim, and kind of like really following that path is saying, I'm the son of Abraham and I should be getting the land.
Amazing.
But because he knows that actually this is not what happened, that he was banned and Sarah said that he cannot be taken any part in the inheritance and Abraham had to listen to her and that's what happened. So he's
Not only that, but the Torah actually says that you will be inherited through Isaac.
yes,
It says that.
yes, and Sarah says you will not inherit the land. Lo yirash ben ha'ama hazot. You're not who you think you are. You're the son of the slave who thinks he's the son of the king. So no, and she's really like clear about that, and she kind of pushes him aside. And then he realizes that in order for him to receive the recognition he needs, Isaac needs to not exist. So as long as he exists, the inheritance will always go to Isaac and his descendants. So the hatred is about really completely eliminating and erasing from the face of the earth.
It's the only explanation that will explain why they could come out and be so barbaric to the babies, the Jewish babies, because for them the Jewish babies is a potential inheritor, and
Exactly.
so he's as much a threat to them, to their position, as a mighty warrior. I mean, otherwise you can't explain it.
Because it's not a rational threat like he's powerful, he's strong. So when you show, oh, we are powerful, we have the biggest army, we have the best weapons, this is not what scares us. As long as there's a single Jewish baby on earth, he is the inheritor, and we cannot allow that.
And that is why we see such passion in the whole parts of the world, which has nothing to do with Israel. You know, people in America who are advocating for a complete annihilation of Israel. From what? What have we done to them? Now we can understand a little bit about the source of what that is. But we're sitting here at the Alshech Shul, and I can't miss the opportunity to bring in some Alshech Torah, because he talks about the Akedah, when the story of the Akedah, and Abraham's walking up the mountain with Isaac and the two servants, Ishmael and his son, Ishmael his son and Eliezer, and the phrase says, Avram looks and sees the pillar of cloud above, further up, and he says to the Eliezer and his servant, you two stay here with the donkey, and me and the boy, meaning Isaac, will go up to the mountain and do what we have to do. And the Alshech on that commentary says, he quotes a midrash, which is fascinating. He says that as they're walking up, Avram hears Ishmael saying to Eliezer, why didn't you kill Isaac and then I'll inherit Abraham? So, of course, Avram says, the statement is, you two will stay here with the donkey. Just as the donkey does not inherit his master when he passes away, you will never inherit.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's Alshech.
Alshech.
Really good.
So,
So what is it really that we should respond to them.
No.
So, first thing is, instead of responding by saying, let's share, or the UN has given us our part, or we were here before, we have an historical claim. All those, since 7th of October, the PR of Israel, it has been very developed because everyone got into the boat, and really talented people are investing lots of their brain power on explaining, and they're like really good, logical, historical, moral explanation why we are right, why this was wrong, facts, everything is they speak around the world, and none of this works because no one says the truth, which is God gave us the land, and we are the inheritor of the land. It's scary to say. It sounds like, oh, are you insane? I grew up in a university in Tel Aviv, the most, for me it's unbelievable. But if you are for truth, you have to speak truth. People will respond to it. So the first thing you have to say, we are the inheritor of the land. You know this. This is written in the Torah explicitly. The Torah that you believe in, the God that you believe in, gave us the land. That's one thing. The second thing that we should say, you are not actually descendants of Ishmael, because you are mixed, completely mixed by now. So there is you may be ideological descendants of Ishmael, but you are not kept as direct descendants of Ishmael anymore. You're mixed with Ham, with Shem, with this, with that, with that. Everything is very, very mixed by now, so you don't have that biological claim that we have, because we have kept something much more strict and pure regarding our ideology. We bring in the book a situation where I think it was the 6-Day War, one of the Arab leaders was saying, you are not the real Jews, because look at you, you wear jeans, shorts, you eat unkosher food, so how can you claim to be the inheritor of Israel, that the biblical Jews, there's nothing in common between you and the biblical Jews. So I think the typical religious mind will be like, you see, this is what happens when Jews don't keep observance and they don't keep the mitzvahs, this is how they see us, because you wear those jeans, they don't give us Israel. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe's response was completely different to this. He said, we are Jews not because we keep mitzvahs, and not because of how we dress, and not because of how we behave. This relates to what we've spoken before. A biological inheritance, what defines inheritance is the fact that it doesn't depend. When a person receives his grandmother's flat in New York or in Tel Aviv, it's our inheritance. It doesn't depend on who he is in terms of how he behaves, if he's a good person, if he's a bad person, if he's smart, if he's that. That's not inheritance. That's salary. That's you earn it or something. This is not something we earn. This is something we are. And when you explain it this way, it puts something much deeper into their mind. It's not about us becoming religious. It's about who we are, who we've always been, and who we'll always be.
I have to inject another thought from the Alshech. As the planes are flying above, may Hashem protect them and protect us. But he says like this: the idea of merit. He says, when somebody passes away, the children inherit it, right? But they also inherit a debt. Like if the father passed away and left a debt, the child inherits that debt and he has to pay it back. So in the case of Judaism and Israel, it was only Yaakov Avinu who was prepared to take the debt of going into Mitzrayim. Esav ran up to the mountain of Edom. Ishmael was not around. It's only Yaakov who took that debt and went into Mitzrayim for 210 years, and was then, based on that merit, was able to retain and hold on to that inheritance because it comes together with the land.
Yes.
So I just wanted to interject that.
Nice.
But I wanted to just really bring you to what I feel is the most important conclusion of what we've just discussed about Esav and Ishmael, particularly about Ishmael, with regards to negotiating and giving up land. Because I want you to explain it in your words, but basically if Ishmael is only interested in complete control and not partial control, then there's no point giving them partial land, because that's not going to do it for them. Could you
Yes, so
express that?
we see also that the Lubavitcher Rebbe always opposed giving land. And on the other hand, they say always Chabad, are they Zionists, are they pro the state, are they against the state, what's going on? But you see, this is not the discourse. It's about, this is a spiritual thing. It's about the destiny of Israel, the state of Israel, the people of Israel. Giving away land sends a message that completely contradicts who we are and what is our mission in the world. And it's a lie. First of all, it's not ours to give. That's one thing that we have to understand. An inheritance is not something that you can give. You inherited it, this is yours by the giver. The giver has decided that this is yours. So you have to say, I'm sorry, I would have given you. I like to share. My character is sharing is caring. If you're fighting, let's just split. But I'm not allowed. This is not mine to give. God gave it to me because this piece of land has been destined for a specific role, for a specific mission. And if I give it to you, this mission cannot be. So not giving it to you because you will kill me afterwards and you will use the land to bring more weapons and it's not a good security decision. I'm not bringing this to you because it's just, bringing it to you is a lie. I cannot do it, I'm not allowed to do it. It's just not yours. So I think we have to be just much more honest about who we are. Just, remove the Israel mask and put the Jewish mask.
Right. And also to understand that from the receiver's point of view, from Ishmael's point of view, from the Arab point of view, even if you give the land, that's not what they're going to satisfy them. It's not enough for them.
And they say it always. They say it, and we just don't listen. That's the thing. It's just really bad communication skills.
Right.
A person is saying, I'm gonna kill you and every one of your kids, no matter what. And you're like, would you like to share maybe? I want everything. I want everything. And every centimeter, yeah, but we gave you guys there's no listening, and it's like a denial of who they are. This is, in a way, October 7th was, I think, a really important time to show that when a person says, I'm gonna kill you, he means it. You can't act like he doesn't mean it. Oh, you and your nonsense, you just speak, you just thread, this is just words. No, he means it, he really is gonna do it. And according to Torah, if someone says, I'm gonna kill you, you have to kill him. So that's something you have to consider. I'm not saying what should be done, but this is something, at least listen. So Torah says, if someone says, I'm gonna kill you, it's important. It's not something to ignore.
Let's bring out this idea. You started your doctorate in Africa and looking at original peoples in their original lands. Tell us about the indigenousness of the Jewish nation in Israel. Tell us something about that.
So I'm an anthropologist, and when you study anthropology, the first what is really powerful now in the discourse of anthropology is really to talk about indigenous people, which is kind of like the original inhabitants of a certain land before it was conquered by other people. Of course, it's in many ways imagined, this idea. It's a romantic, kind of exotic idea because people have always moved and they've always conquered, and if you check a group of people, indigenous as they may seem, you will see that they have a history of immigration, a history of conquer. It's life. This is what we do on this globe. But there are groups who've been part of a place for a long time, and then another group came and conquered them, usually a European power, and then they kind of take over the land, the resources, influence their culture, and there's kind of like a critical outlook at it in contemporary anthropology. And in that kind of equation, Israel is always portrayed as the European conquering power, and the Palestinians are portrayed as the indigenous. And then that's always what sets the framework for the narrative of how you explain everything in here, politics, everything. And it's interesting because you see, anti-Semitism always shapes itself according to what is trendy in thinking. So if it was actually trendy to be the conqueror, obviously we will be the indigenous. It's about what is trendy, what is the right side and what is the wrong side, and the Jew will be shaped into the wrong side no matter what. So right now it's the wrong side to be the powerful one, the strong one, the conqueror, although for the rest of history this was the good part to be. The Jew was the weak one, the stateless one. That's why he was hated. Now it's wrong to be powerful, it's wrong to be a conqueror, so now the Jew is the powerful and the conqueror. If you look a bit deeper into history, into Torah, into our ancestors, you realize, obviously, this is an archaeological, a spiritual, it's a fact. We are indigenous to this land. It's hilarious how we have to respond to things like people bringing out old shekels and saying this is a Palestinian shekel, and it's what is this? There was no Palestinian leader before Yasser Arafat. Before the 50s and 60s, there was no Palestinian identity, and yet there's this like crazy lie that continues to kind of grow and grow and grow. And we have to, I think, as anthropologists as well, we have to kind of put a boundary and say this is an indigenous people. One of the interesting things that Rabbi Manis teaches me and is in the book is that actually after the flood, when there was no there were no people on the land, the land was allocated, and Israel, it was given to Shem, and we are the descendants of Shem. So this is how indigenous we are, in a way where the original indigenous people, in a sense that we really didn't take the land from anyone. We didn't conquer it, because when it was fresh from the packaging, it was given to us.
Right.
And apparently when God says to Abraham that he should go to leave his country and go to Israel and conquer Israel again, what he's really saying is I'm restoring what was taken from Shem. Because Canaan conquered the land from Shem, and he renamed it to Canaan, the land of Canaan. So this was the first conquer, and when God sends Abraham, he says to Abraham, I want to bring back Israel. So
very good.
Yeah.
And just to just clarify this point, when did Palestine or Palestinians come into existence?
So historically we know we're talking about the 50s, the 60s, very late history. There is no Palestinian flag before, there's no coherent Palestinian identity. There is a piece of land that is named Palestine or Palestina by the British mandate, but you have Palestinian Jews as well. So there are Jews and Arabs living in Palestine. There isn't a Palestinian as opposed to the Jew. That never happens. What happens is that the Palestinian identity really develops as a reaction, as a response to Israeli identity. So as Israel is founded, the Palestinian identity starts to develop. And what we explain in the book is that this actually has a Kabbalistic origin. Because what happens is the world is based on everything that is holy or has a potential for holiness or godliness will automatically create around it a shell that opposes it. Because the way creation world is, there's a balance between good and evil that creates the choice. So what happens is when Israel is born, great potential for holiness, Palestinian is born, an opposition for that holiness, and the Palestinian identity is inspired and almost like an identity theft. It's completely phrasing itself according to the Jewish identity. So they're like the new Jew. They will say, we are the inheritance, Palestine is the promised land, we missed that old time before we were conquered, and we are the victims of the situation, and they will build a narrative that is taken from us. So this is called Yanika, when the shell cannot define itself. The shell is always a lie in a way. The shell is not true, it's not emet. Emet is what is holy and what is eternal and what is godly. The shell is only there to hide it. So what it does, it has to use like the repository of the holiness in its own language. So you see that the Palestinian identity is really using Jewish language and narrative, but in a way that hides and contradicts the Jewish narrative.
Mm.
So I think it's a really interesting way to look at it, because it's just about, wow, this is about us claiming truth. This is about us choosing and making the world holy and godly with our actions. This is a really important message in the book, is that we shouldn't be praying for a miracle. We shouldn't be waiting for miracles. We should become the miracle. Because when a miracle happens, what's the chidush? God knows how to do amazing things. God knows to change the nature. God knows how to save us. That was always there. Geula begins when we become a beacon of light, when we behave as God wants us to behave, and so we become the miracle.
When we behave godly.
Yes, we should become godly, or we're already godly, we should just express the godliness within us. And when the godliness of Geula is not the godliness from above, the main godly light should be coming to the world through the Jews. This is our responsibility. God wishes that His light will be shown through us. So it is about us taking responsibility and knowing who we are and what we are meant to do and completing our mission, and just taking that extra step of understanding it's not about God saving us, redempting us, bring us Mashiach. This is about God is waiting for us to do our part.
Beautiful. I really want you to bring out what I found was really novel and innovative that I heard directly from Manis Friedman, and that is the role of the Jew and the nation of Israel vis-a-vis, why didn't you become our friends? Why didn't you accept us? Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and his suggestion that about the classroom and the teacher and the.
So let's take the UN as an example. The UN is a place that really doesn't like us and discriminates us and patronizes us, and there's so much lies there and corruption and what the way we respond to it is like, yeah, but why didn't you tell him as well? But he also did that, and like something very weak, very like, please accept me, please recognize me, please stop discriminating me, and we want your approval.
From a victim point of view.
Yes.
This is for a victim.
Like the unpopular kid at school that wants to be accepted, and we kind of like, we want that acceptance. Please see us as part of the members of the nations. Please accept us into that club. We just want to be part of the club. Can't you see how good we are? And that creates sort of like more despise and more arrogance towards us.
Why does that?
So that's because deep down, the nations are waiting for us to be who we really are. Because this is a lie. This is not who we are. We are not part of the world. And the song, "We Are the World," we are not the world. So Rabbi Manis says that it's a true song. All the nations are the world. but Bob Dylan is there, he shouldn't be there. You see the video, you actually see he looks very bored and unimpressed. He's not the world. We can't think that we are the world, because this is not true. So we have to be above the world. We came from before the world, we perceive the world. We came to make the world godly. So by taking a point of influence, shifting the relations, we are here to teach you. We can basically convert the dynamics there. And then the UN can become a classroom, because this is a place where all the nations are sit down and they can listen to us. But it's about what we say when the mic is. So every few years something happens in Israel and the whole global media and the world attention is on us. Why is it? There's so many other conflicts happening right now. God is actually putting the attention to us. He's giving us the mic, and He's waiting for us to use that momentum and the opportunity to speak out the correct voice. Maybe I can read a part from the part about the UN. So this is actually from a speech given by Ariel Sharon in the UN. And it's a very interesting speech, because something happens to him. The way he phrases things there is something that we should take inspiration from. So at the UN's 60th anniversary, former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon came to give a speech. He spoke like a wise grandfather speaking to his children. I arrived to you from Jerusalem, Israel's eternal capital for over 3,000 years, he said. I stand before you at the gate of nations as a Jew, a representative of an ancient people. Unabashedly expressing his Jewish pride, he went on to say, the Jewish people have a long memory originating with our father Abraham and continuing with the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai. Actually said that. The substantive reminder of his speech may be debated. So the rest of it, if you remember, this speech was a very sad speech, because that's where he speaks about the Itnatkut. But that voice, the way what he brought there, who he was to them, this was a moment from which we should all take inspiration. Sharon restored the relationship between the Jews and the nations to its natural order. We are the grandfather of the world. If proud Jews were the teachers and the world the classroom, the UN would be a perfect platform for disseminating messages of holiness, truth, and justice.
Beautiful. So now let's turn towards how we have to react, or how we have to rise above to deal with this problem that we have with the animosity, the Arab animosity that we're getting at the moment. You had a very interesting phrase in the book where you said when we go to war, we have to go above our enemies as opposed to go against our enemies. Can you say a little bit about that as well?
So I think the soldiers today, God bless them, they are really on that very high consciousness. They behave like soldiers of Joshua, or completely, and doesn't matter religious, secular. I want my tzitzit, on my tefillin, Tehillim, Torah scrolls on their tanks. They are not regular soldiers. Something is incredibly powerful in what they bring. They know who they are, and they know their mission, and they're completely giving up to what God is. So this is B'tzirut Nefesh. It's an amazing thing, and they are way above their enemies. Their moral attitude, of course, we don't even need to. I once saw, you won't believe this, it's a PhD in Tel Aviv University in the anthropology department, how statistically the IDF is the army that has no cases of rape towards the women in the nation that he conquers.
Wow.
This PhD was claiming this is a result of racism. So there is no ray because of a sense of disgust that doesn't exist in other conquering people. But this is the point. Morality for soldiers, if you look clearly, is you see them, they bring in water, they take care of the kids. Morality is there, holiness is there, confidence is there, the power is there. If we'll allow the IDF to be who he is and allow our soldiers to do what they know, I think a great victory can happen. The problem is the external forces, politics, and the fact that we're not a sovereignty. This is another thing in the book. We have a chapter about sovereignty, the fact that we are playing according to someone else's rules. So America would say and determine how much, when to stop, when to start, what is proportionate, what is disproportionate. So by releasing ourselves from other people imposing their external Western morals and ideas and kind of really sabotaging how we should fight this, and by allowing the soldiers to do what they know, this can be a victory. It's only the external forces that are
Yeah, at this point, I'd love to give a prayer that Hashem protects us from the leaders who become spokespersons to foreign agendas. You hear an Israeli politician standing up and speaking, and you can see like a microphone coming from the from America. It's almost a sound piece of America. So may we have the ability to be sovereign and to have the pride in sticking to the principles that we were brought up to live to.
Amen. I want to tell you a story. I just this morning I saw a video of Netanyahu when he was 28 years old. He's in America. He's giving a speech there. And he's saying, you Americans should really support us because this is in your benefit. We are your branch in the Middle East. We are your true ally in the Middle East. You can really use us. He's really kind of, the way he's legitimizing us is by being a tool for them.
Right.
And it seemed like, please help us, fund us, because we're going to be of help to you. So the idea is understanding that our mission is not to be the helper of anyone else. Our mission is not to be a tool in a bigger game of any other empire. We have our own mission, we have our own identity, and we have to start living it up.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I have a student, I have two students who have children who are kidnapped in Gaza. I realized this after October 7th, they contacted me, and they're part of the community. They study with Rabbi Manis, they study with me. So one of them, her name is Melav, her daughter is in Gaza. She's a soldier. She was one of the only female soldiers who were kidnapped from the base. And she's going to our lessons, and she read also our first book, I Didn't Ask to Be Born. And instead of, sitting all day and just weeping over her daughter, she was living her mission in such an inspiring way. And she met Netanyahu and Sarah, and she told them, you were put on this earth for a mission. You didn't ask to come here. You were brought here because you have a godly mission, because God is waiting for you to be the leaders of the Jewish people and support him. And it was so amazing to think of. For me, those women are like, you think of Dvorah Nevi'ah or Miriam Nevi'ah. This is the level of faith. You have your kids are in Gaza, and you go around Israel speaking to politicians, speaking to people, speaking to the prime minister, and reminding him who he is and what is his true mission.
It's unbelievable. It's like the children bringing the parents back to tshuva. But I have to bring in this concept that one of our teachers, Chaim David Targan, mentioned, and that is that as the empire of America is falling, they've taken the crown off the head of America. But it's about to be put onto Israel's head. But Israel has to have the confidence to take that crown and put it on our heads. We have to have the confidence to see ourselves as that inspiring country to guide and lead the world to a better place. So B'ezrat Hashem will take that on. But let's look at the how we have to behave now with the Arabs. And I wanted you to bring out this idea. What happens in, you said this mashal, that if we are the teacher and we want to teach the world. So what happens if you have a child that is disruptive in the class? How do you deal with that child? Could you talk about that? I mean, because that's the parallel that we have here.
So, first thing is that we always talk about peace, and we want peace. I grew up in schools that were, wow, it was all about singing songs of peace, drawing the two flags together, people holding hands. We love peace and friendship and harmony, but peace is actually a second stage. There's a stage before. When someone says, I want to kill you, I hate you, a respect has to be a condition for peace. Respect is a condition. Respect is also a condition for love. In the Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says, the beginning of the work is yira, not ahava. Because when you don't have respect, you cannot really love. When you don't have limitations. So it's not about gaining peace. It's about gaining respect. And gaining respect is by making it very, very clear that it's not tolerable and it's unaccepted and it's not worth it for even one stone to be picked up and thrown at you. Not to say the worst things and atrocities that are happening. So it's our response that should be much more fierce. That's another thing. What is a proportionate response? So everyone says, Israel is allowed to defend itself, but proportionately. So what is this proportion? Does that mean, oh wait, how many people they killed? Okay, this is the amount of people we have to. How many people they raped? Okay, we're gonna rape this amount of people. Is this proportionate? This is completely immoral. We cannot. This makes the death of those people in vain. It's completely useless. It's a waste of life, a waste of energy. So what is a proportionate response? According to Torah, a response that restores the respect and the fear in a way that promises security for at least 40 years. If you promised security and you made sure that it's not worth it to kill more Jews and to harm more Jewish life, this was proportionate. What is disproportionate? After you have achieved this, if you kill even one more person, or you hurt one more person beyond what is needed for that stability and security, that's disproportionate. So, if what it takes to have that stability is killing one person, that's fine. That's what you kill. If you have to kill much more than one person, that's what you have to do. But if you kill even one person beyond what was needed, that's disproportionate. So that's a good way to look at it. We need to restore our power, our fierceness, to restore the respect towards us, to make it very, very clear that it's not acceptable to harm us, and by that to create that will be a proportionate response.
When you're talking, I'm listening to the response of Levi and Shimon to Dinah being raped. There was zero tolerance, and you're suggesting that we should have zero tolerance for any terrorist activity against us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. When you read that story, you really say, what has happened to us? Like in a way, we're better because we read that and we're like, whoa, what have they done? This is unacceptable. Okay, so we're much more moral. We have more edelkeit, more gentle. We're more aware of who we should be and how we should be presented. But on the other hand, you see such clarity and strong ideals that even one woman was raped, the response should be so harsh that it's unacceptable. This is not going to even come to mind to do something like this again.
It's very interesting that the answers of the children to Yaakov was, is this what should be done to a Jewish woman? To a Jewish woman? That can't be to them. Okay, so let's move on to really what you see as the solution here into the conflict of post 7th of October. Because we can't eliminate the fact that there are these 2 million Palestinians that are living in Gaza. So what is your and Manis Friedman's solution to this very real problem?
So first of all, it's about restoring respect and regaining power, and really letting the army do its job without any interference and without considering public opinion and trying to please other people's values, and really taking on what needs to be done. The second thing is to tell who we are constantly. It's about education. The anti-Semitism of today is ignorance. So it's a void that we're living things empty, and in that emptiness all the horrible things happen. So we have to really educate about who we are. And I don't know, I'm not a military person, I'm not a politician, but I do know that the faith in the Arab world is very, very strong. And they're God-fearing in a way, but they just don't know who is God, and they don't know what He wants, and they don't understand. A lot of them are becoming more aware of the fact that their version of God can't be right. Christians, Muslims, it's become apparent to people that the religions have not done a very good job throughout the years in describing God. The religions are horrible. So they are waiting to hear something else, but they're not hearing anything from us. If they will hear the right things and will be convinced, because we have the tools to tell them, they will join us. That's what we need to hope. That they will be the ones who say, let's build a temple then. Oh, so this is how it is? Okay, so we have to take part. And the thing is, we see that opinions can change very quickly. People who were protesting in North Tel Aviv, in Tel Aviv, they were protesting about one thing. The next day they were protesting about another thing, because really what we see outside is energy being expressed according to the language that is available to me. I have an energy. I want to come out to the streets and yell that I want a better world. What can I yell about? Okay, there's some sort of a chapter changed in the high court that no one will even know if it wasn't. No one will even understand its meaning. But I want to change the world, so I'm going to take this is what I'm going to chant on it. In the campuses in America, people are screaming because they want a better world. But what? The media says Israel is conquering Palestine, they're killing Palestine. Let's go. People are not satisfied just sitting and watching movies anymore and eating popcorn. And that's a good sign. People want something new, something else.
They want purpose.
But they want a purpose, they want a better world. And it can change just like this. You just have to give them a new, because those protesters in Tel Aviv, the day after October 7th, the topic completely changed. Now it's about saving the hostages. We can debate whether it's coming from the right reasons or if it's correct, but it is a much more noble idea to fight for, because you offer them a better purpose, they take it on. So offer them a better purpose. That's what we say. Offer the Arabs, offer the anti-Semitism a vision that they can connect to, that they can relate to, and the energy just needs to be channeled somewhere else.
Let's imagine I brought in a couple of residents of Gaza here to debate you. How would you inspire them to see a different vision? What would you say to them?
It will have to be really Torah talk. It will have to be talking to them in their own they speak Torah, they speak God, they speak religion. You speak democracy, you lost them. So it's one thing when I was researching in Ghana, in West Africa, I was going to ask them about digital technologies, middle class, housing, their professions, their education, and they wanted to talk about God. I was like, yeah, but you see, my research proposal is not about religion. I'm not studying. It's like, what are you talking about? We want to talk about God. We want to talk about Israel. We want to talk about Satan. Explain to us what does the Jewish people say about Jesus? What do the Jewish people say about Satan? What do the Jewish people? We want to learn. So I was shocked, and I also realized I don't have the answers. I went back home. I couldn't be there anymore, and I took like a few months, and I just studied. And in the second time I came back, it was like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And we just spoke about this, and it was much easier to communicate with them. I got the other information as well, but you have to communicate with them according to their point of interest. So faith, godliness, Torah, that has to be our topic, definitely.
Okay. I want to give a chance to.
Outside of Amazon, where locally can we purchase this book?
Okay, so I have a few copies here, but this is not distributed yet in the shop, so you can contact me, and we have a Hebrew version, an English version, and we're printing it like independently here, and you can purchase it through.
Okay.
So in the last few minutes,
Also, is there an English version of I Didn't Ask to Be Born?
Not yet. We're looking for a translator.
Okay.
So in the last few minutes, I'd love to open
One question
two questions.
crossed my mind is that you said you have to give the Muslims or the Arabs a certain goal, but now the goal is to destroy Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a very tough one because that is what reunites them.
So that has to be, first of all, unacceptable.
Of course.
It's not.
But
It has to be that it doesn't pay off to hurt a Jew. Like the damage, you have to find what can you take from them that will make the consequences worse than doing it. And they're not scared.
And you know what?
They're not scared even of death.
They're not.
So
what can you take?
You
away?
have to come up with. You have to find something. Maybe
Pig's blood. That's what the British used when they were here.
that's a good idea. You have to find their sensitive spot, and you have to be completely fearless and saying, "I want to. If you do this, I'm going to do the thing you're scared of the most. What are you scared of the most? You're not scared of death? Okay, so I have to find something else. But you have to make it really lo mishtalem. It doesn't pay off. It doesn't pay off to do that. That's one thing, and then there will be respect, and they will be available. You know, my grandparents, they say after Milchemet Sheshet Hayamim, my father always says that an Arab used to cross to the other side of the street when he saw a Jew because he had so much respect and fear, and sometimes even between parents and children, this is not something that I'm saying out of hatred. Fear is essential sometimes to restore a healthy relationship.
Right.
But it's very difficult, especially in this time, because it's completely backed up by the UN and all. So
We have a very difficult mission. Very.
And the UN is losing all its credibility, whatever it had.
Any other questions?
A comment about not eliminating more of the enemy than you absolutely have to. I think that's a pretty tough thing to define. And if they've already tried to kill you, by Halacha, you're supposed to eliminate them. So that would include all of Hamas and all of Hezbollah.
So what is, for example, of course, we're not talking about someone who said he's going to kill you. We're talking about civilians. So what is a civilian? That's another thing we redefine. So is a civilian someone that doesn't have the uniform? Like if a woman cooks food for the soldiers, she's a civilian or she's a soldier? If a woman brings babies so that they will become soldiers, is she a civilian? So the line between a civilian and a soldier cannot be uniforms. It cannot be if you're holding a weapon or not. This is crazy. So it is not our responsibility to discriminate between them. But if someone says, I surrender. I don't want to kill you. I accept you. It's something that happens in wars. It used to be a common thing. A person said, hello, I don't want to kill you. I surrender. What do you want? I'm with you. That person you shouldn't kill. You're not supposed to kill.
How do you fight their educational system that teaches lies and hatred?
From elementary school.
First of all, we allow it, so we cannot. We're just gonna let it. It's like weeds that you let them grow, and so it's not easy to enter it and to. But we have to set alternatives, and we have to really be aware of the damage that it creates, and just I come here to Tzfat, and it's so harmonious and spiritual, and it's really a little paradise, and I have to go back today, and I don't want to go back. But on the other hand, there's a world, it needs fixing. It's not going to fix itself. Anyone that lives here, that sits here, he knows Torah, he knows Judaism, he has a responsibility. And that's why I always tell the young people here, you really shouldn't be here too long. You should find a way to live up your mission, because hiding away from the world, it will make you a better, maybe, spiritual person. It will benefit you spiritually. You block your phone, you block your internet, you block your eyes, you block your ears. You will be spiritually protected, but the world will remain the same and become worse. The world is not going to fix itself. God relies on us to fix the world. God is not going to fix the world for us, because there's no point in that. There's no chiddush. We have to be the miracle.
So it's a beautiful way to end. But is there anything that you?
Yeah, was one thing I just remember, because at the end of the time there's also Erev Rav, and that's so we have to conquer what you say is it looks very good and it's very serious, but how do we deal then with the Erev Rav? Because like a lot of is financed from indirectly from within.
Yeah.
So that's you didn't mention that.
We don't know who they are. So because we don't know, when someone in your family is really annoying and sees everything different from you, the easiest thing to say, oh, you're probably not my brother. It could be that he is your brother. He's a Jew. He's just such a Jew that he wants to fight with you as well. But it's too easy to say, oh, they're Erev Rav. I'm allowed to hate them. I'm allowed to discredit them. You don't know who they are. They are Jews. But they're fighting with you. They don't agree with you. So talk it out. He's your brother.
Because according to the Zohar, as far as my knowledge goes, and that's not so very deep, but anyway, it says that 80% in the end times is Erev Rav. So it's very difficult to that you go that you have the right path.
So when I study the Zohar, it's usually through the channel of Hassidut, which is meant to kind of bring the Zohar to our understanding. I never, for example, see the Lubavitcher Rebbe talking about Erev Rav. Never. Because the idea, even if it's an Erev Rav or a Goy or anyone else, by educating them, by giving them a sense of purpose and a vision and speaking truth, whether they are Erev Rav or not, they will change their mind. But if you see a Jew, even if he's really annoying and really thinks differently to you, and you remember, yeah, but he's a Jew just like me, and you speak to him that way, it will be much easier. And I know my story. I know where I was, what I thought, who I voted for, what was my perception. So I'm a proof. I could have been defined as Erev Rav by someone. I don't know, maybe. Maybe would have someone said, oh, he's Erev Rav. There's no point in teaching him. There's no point in loving him. There's no point in accepting him into the minyan. But it's by seeing me as part of you, as one with you, that I am here today. And it shouldn't be in condition to how I behave and what I shout in the street. Doesn't matter.
So I just wanted to give a plug for this book. It's a really excellent read, and you can get it through us. If you contact Alshech Academy, we'll put you in touch with Eldad, and he'll get you a copy. But Tell us, as we conclude, if somebody is not able to read this and you would like to give them one key message to take with them, what would it be?
Mashiach is coming. We are in the midst of a process. Open your eyes and see the process. He's coming. You want to take part in it. You want to feel like you participated. When he comes, you don't want to be like, oh, okay, so he came. I just waited. You want to be like, wow, look, you remember what we did to bring you? Like, take part. Really take part. It's amazing. You will see amazing things. You will bring out things in yourself that you won't believe. And just know, the good ending will come. But you want to be involved in that process, because that's the moment to really grab.
Be who we are, Hazak.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing this beautiful ideas with us, and wish you lots of luck.
Thank you.
And please carry on writing. We love to keep in touch with where you are at the moment.
Thank you so much for hosting me and reading the book. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody.
Did you hear the part about where the Geula begins when we take Rafa?
When we take?
When we take Rafa.
Wow, no, I didn't hear.
I don't have the knowledge to back that up, but I've heard people say that is something that's come from hundreds and hundreds of years ago.
Really?
Well, I think from Colombia, and I could be wrong. But that kicks off the Geula when we take Rafa.
Wow, that's
So
exciting. We're close, definitely.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna get a new suit.
It's bubbly.
Yeah.
I have. Actually, maybe I'll leave some copies with you.
Yeah. Listen, listen.
Hello.
Where do we record it?
I have to ask.
Is this real recording?
No, not at the moment.
Ah, fine.
You have to ask Shlomo. He's in charge. I'm his deputy.
Ah, Onderman.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
They say in the Vaterland Untermensch.
No. Hang on. Gonna be a bumpy ride. Gonna be a bumpy ride. When you speak.
1 minute.
Check the batteries.
Excellent.
Okay.
Tell me when to come in.
Once again,
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You know that I just suggest if we can go outside, because we're recording
You start?
Yes?
I'll count back from 3, 2, 1. Okay?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
These are 2 articles which I had printed. The first one on the subject of the Iran in prophecy. Recent events remind one of the Yalkut that was made famous at the time of the 1991 Gulf War. Quote, in the year in which the Mashiach will be revealed, all the nations of the world will provoke each other. The king of Persia will provoke the king of Arabia, and he will go to the king of Edom to take counsel. And the king of Persia will threaten to destroy the entire world. Yalkut Shimoni 499. Persia could be Iran, Arabia could be Saudi Arabia, and the king of Edom could be the president of the USA. Quote, 40 years before Mashiach ben David, there will appear Mashiach ben Yosef, who will be slain by the king of Persia in Jerusalem. Pirkei HaChalos 39. Quote, if you see a Persian horse tethered to a grave in Eretz Yisrael, look out for the coming of the Mashiach. Midrash. Bilam, in his last prophecy, bewailed in one of the strangest verses in the Torah, quote, Oy mi yichyeh misumo el, tzim miyad kitim, ve'inu ashur, ve'inu ever, ve'gam hu ade oved, Bamidbar 24. Woe, who will survive Hashem's devastation? warships will come from the ports of Kittim to lay waste Assyria and Eber, possibly referring to Syria, Iraq, and Iran. And these ships will also be utterly destroyed. The Torah here talks of the end times, talking about warships. Indeed, aircraft carrier battle groups keep being attracted to the Persian Gulf and Eastern Mediterranean as if by a magnet. Hinei Damasek Musar Me'ir V'Haisa Me'i Hapala. Behold, Damascus will cease to be a city, it will become a heap of ruins. Damascus, Isaiah 17. Together with Russia, Moscow, Tobolsk, Libya, Egypt, Turkey, Germany, and Black Africa, Paras, Persia, is depicted in Yechezkel 38 as one of the nations that will confederate with Gog and Magog in attacking the land of Israel. In February 1991, the then recently resigned British Prime Minister, Mrs. Margaret Thatcher, lamented the historic failure of the coalition to encircle and remove the thief of Baghdad, Saddam Hussein, in Iraq. They failed. Lahavdil, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, strongly urged the encirclement of Cairo and Damascus in 1973, of Tyre in 1978, and of Beirut in 1982, deeming them propitious times to defang the Klippus Yishmael once and for all. Klippus Yishmael. And he predicted that failure to do so would ensure that the poor Israelis would be repeatedly compelled to unwillingly reconquer them again and again and again, as we see. According to all halachic opinions, Gaza and Lebanon are part of Eretz Yisrael, and once occupied by Jewish forces, they are forbidden to be voluntarily relinquished. The nations each have a heavenly representative in Shemayim, a supernal angel, a supernal Sar, that wage war against each other in heaven. The idea of angels in heaven fighting each other, it's not a Christian idea, it's a Jewish idea. The Sar of Paras seems to have become reactivated in our days. Quote from Daniel chapter 10, and the prince of the kingdom of Persia, the supernal angel, has been standing against me for 21 days. And behold, Michael, the angel of the Jewish people, one of the first Sars, has come to help, and I remain there beside the kings of Persia. And then strangely he continues, Daniel, Uvasi la'avincha es asher yikra la'amcha ba'acharis hayomim ki od chazon liyamim. Behold, I have come to enable you to understand, Daniel, what will happen to your people ba'acharis hayamim, at the end of days, for there is yet a vision for those days. And now I shall return to battle with the angel of Persia. The Talmud in Yoma 10 gives opinions that Persia is destined to fall by the hands of Rome, which could be interpreted, Iran will fall by the hands of America. Paras sheyipol b'yad Romi. But there is a contrary opinion given in the Talmud, that Romi yipol b'yad Paras, that Rome will fall by the hands of the Persians. Until now, a war between the USA and Iran would have been a no contest. But with the United States of America, as it once was, seemingly self-liquidating, and it may currently be in terminal decline, the USA may be on its way out. See the article, The Future of America at the End of Time, by Rabbi Mendel Kessin, and Why Civilizations Die, by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. The Persians, the Iranians may still be in with a chance. Chas v'sholom. The parameters of Mashiach ben Yosef are considerably wider than that of Mashiach ben David. A woman can possess a bechina, a woman, an aspect of Mashiach ben Yosef. For example, the midwives, the mialdos in Egypt, are considered by the Vilna Gaon to have had an aspect of being the Mashiach ben Yosef. And he states that Esther, the queen of Persia, Esther Malka Paras, was the Mashiach ben Yosef of her generation, a woman. And even a non-Jew, a Gentile, can be in the category of being a Mashiach ben Yosef. as the verse says, Ko amah Hashem lemashicho lekoresh. Thus says Hashem to his Messiah, to Koresh, Isaiah 45. The Vilna Gaon says there, Koresh, Cyrus, king of Persia, a non-Jew, he who gave permission for the temple to be rebuilt, was an aspect of Mashiach ben Yosef. Rabbis pointed out at the time of the election of Donald Trump in 2016 that his name, Donald Trump in Hebrew, has the gematria of 424, the same as Mashiach ben David. Now, no one is saying that Donald Trump is Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben David has to be a male and he has to be a blood descendant of Ishai. But it's possible, say the rabbis, that Donald Trump was a manifestation of Tov Sheba Esau, the good side of Esau. And, according to the Vilna Gaon, Donald Trump, who, like his daughter Ivanka Yael Trump, Kushner, is claimed to have quietly converted from Presbyterian Christianity to Judaism. A claim has been made, Donald Trump has quietly become a Jew, and that he could yet be with a chance of becoming Mashiach ben Yosef, should he be re-elected in November. Finally, Ki hineni bore shamayim chadashim va'aretz chadasha v'lo sischarna harishonos v'lo tzalena alev. Behold, I will create new heavens and new earth, says Hashem, and the earlier ones will not be remembered, nor will they even come to mind. Yeshaya 65.
Are there any more of those left?
No.
I don't know. You want to sit here? You might sit here. Or you prefer to sit here?
Shlomo decided 5 minutes ago I should talk about Lag BaOmer.
Oh, okay.
Rishon Bayuchai. Okay?
Where were they?
Shlomo.
Oh,
No, I'm saying Shlomo. So we're not live, right?
I think it's still on. Let me check. It's still live, yes. I'll check what the Shlomo wants. You also have to be careful what you say.
I would also.
You want, so
Say
you
nothing.
can elaborate?
I don't have money in my house,
Shlomo,
but I'm good for it.
Shlomo, we keep it like this? We keep it like this? The
Yeah,
setup?
I think so.
You okay with you?
I mean, we can put you here instead if you prefer to sit on the table.
Let me show things.
So that this is easier to show.
So it's on. Oh, okay.
Want me to start it? Start the recording?
Should I start?
Yeah?
Okay.
1, 3, 2, 1. It's for recording.
Okay. Boker Tov. A few days left before a celebration. Okay? Halavai, the war would stop, we'll celebrate. But I'm referring to the celebration of Lag BaOmer.
That was it last night.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I'd like to say a giant of Tzfat. We consider Meron a neighborhood of Tzfat. We're so close by. Because of the proximity of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to Tzfat, that's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why so many great rabbis, of course the Mekubalim, the mystics, why they came to Tzfat hundreds of years ago. Even today, people come to Tzfat to be close to Meron. And Lag BaOmer, which is not mentioned, of course, in the Torah. Okay, it's a celebration. We call it, some of us call it a holiday. Maybe not the Chatam Sofer. He didn't call it a holiday. He said, a holiday? Of course not. But the Chassidim, many others, it's considered a holiday. Not only that we don't say Tachanun in the Tefillah, but it's an important day, and historians try to understand what's so important about this day. And I think if we delve into the sources, it's not because he passed away on Lag BaOmer. There's really no source. There's really no ancient source for that. It's his day of happiness or celebration, Yom Simchato. That's what it says by Rabbi Chaim Vital in the Kitvei of the Ari Kadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, said it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's day of Simcha. Hilula, okay, like a marriage, and he was probably referring historically to the fact that he didn't pass away with the others. He wasn't killed, or he didn't pass away with the other 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva. He stayed on and was one of the main rabbis who kept going even after the Bar Kokhba rebellion and kept the Torah flowing. He was in the cave for 13 years, 12 years and another year with his son. And he came out, according to tradition, that's where they wrote the Zohar. Okay, maybe we'll have a few minutes to talk about where is that cave. But in any case, he's buried here in Meron. So we don't know the day of his yortzeit. But many think that Lag BaOmer is also the day that he passed away. In any case, we know that when he passed away, there was a great light. A great light, but it doesn't say the exact date where he passed away. In any case, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai lived 1800 years ago. He lived in the second half of the 1st century CE, and the first half of the 2nd century CE. A Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, mainly in the 2nd century. Rabbi Akiva already was older than him, of course. Rabbi Akiva was his great rabbi. Rabbi Akiva was put to death, okay? After or in wake of the Bar Kokhba rebellion in Caesarea. Tradition says he's buried in Tveria. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was in the generation after him, among other rabbis who were here in the Galilee with the other Jews that came up to Galilee from Judea in wake of the Bar Kokhba rebellion. Those are historic, well-known facts. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is found here in the Galil, in the Talmud, of course in the Zohar. And he's here, he walks around, he's traipsing around, he's teaching. He's making sure Jews don't live Israel, because it was a tough time. In tough times, some Jews pick up and leave. We're staying now in this war. We're here. But some would rather leave. And that's what happened then also. And so we hear of stories of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai convincing or trying to convince the Jews of Galilee, let's stay put. Like in Tzfat, after the great earthquake in 1837, the Avrich kept the Jews here in Tzfat. The same with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He was one of the leaders who kept the Jews here. In fact, there's a well-known story in the Midrash that took place in Meron, right next to us. That the people, he lived in Meron for part of his life. Sure. He also lived, we know about him in Tekoa Galilee. That's not Tekoa in Judea, but there was also Tekoa in Galilee. Okay, we argue about exactly where Tekoa is. It could be Pki'in, but it could be Chilbit Shema near Meron. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was a native of our area here. Okay? He may have visited Tzfat also, which was here during his time. It wasn't a big town, but it was here. They were here. During his time or after, there were Kohanim here in Tzfat and in Meron. We know, the Yehoyarif family. So anyway, let's get back to the story. In Meron, a prominent Jew came back to Meron from Chutz La'aretz. He was outside, and he came with beautiful clothing from a department store. I don't know, maybe in Egypt, in Cairo. And the other people started looking. They were jealous of him. And some saying, let's go, in Chutz La'aretz, things are better. So he took the whole community of Meron to the top of the hill, where I think he took them to the Bet Knesset, to the ancient synagogue of Meron, which is the top of Meron. And he told everybody, look down, look to the valley. And all of a sudden, the trees started growing, and you could see gold coins on the trees. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai told everybody, what you want is money? That's what you want? Okay, you think it's better in Chutz La'aretz? You have your money here. You can be rich here also. But if you go down and pluck away the gold coins, you'll be plucking away probably at least part of your olam haba, of your rewards. We have to be good Jews here. We have to stay in Eretz Yisrael. He was a big Zionist, I would call him. Okay, he will stay, keep in Eretz Yisrael. And then Eretz Yisrael, the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, after the Bar Kokhba rebellion, were mainly here in the Galil, in Galilee. And in the Talmud, we hear a lot of sayings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I brought with me a beautiful article that's not so well known. It's in English. It was written by Rabbi Professor Ben Zion Rosenfeld, a prominent historian of the time of the Talmud from Bar Ilan University. And he wrote already in 1999 an article on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, wonder worker and magician. He delved in the sources of the Talmud before, without even discussing the Zohar. Okay, and he shows how throughout the Talmud, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was already then considered a wonder worker, like the Ari HaKadosh. And we have a number of stories. I like to tell the story of he and his son after being 13 years in the cave. It was 12 years. They came out, but then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai started seeing people not learning Torah, and he zapped them. And the angels, Hashem, got angry with them. That's why you left the cave. He sent them back for another year. Okay, this story is mentioned 7-8 times in different versions, Talmudic versions, in Masechet Shabbat, in the Midrashim, in the Yerushalmi. The historians say the Yerushalmi version is probably the more exact one. In none of the versions does it say exactly where the cave was. Some versions say Beka or Pekah, which we think Pki'in, but the Zohar itself mentions the desert of Lod. Sure, the desert of Lod, where the cave was, which is down in the middle of Eretz Yisrael, down below, and some even pinpoint a cave not far from Modi'in, not far from Gamzu, as the cave where maybe they hid out. That's according to the Zohar. But the most well-known tradition is the cave in Pki'in. Okay? A half hour from here. We can get there, but you can't go through the northern road. It's hard going there. You can't go through Sasa. You have to go around Carmiel and up best if you want to go there. And that's the famous cave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son. After they came out, 13 years of being in the cave, they had to wash up, had to get clean. They went down to Tveria, to the hot springs of Tveria. Okay, Chamei Tveria. And they cleaned themselves up. And then they went to the people of Tveria and say, what can we do for you? You helped us so much. You welcomed us here in Tveria. And the people of Tveria didn't ask for gold coins or beautiful clothing or whatever. He asked the wonder worker, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we have a problem. Wherever we dig in Tveria, we find graves. It's a problem for the Kohanim and for all of us. Okay, I was the archaeologist of Tveria for 26 years. Wherever I dug also, I used to find graves. Wherever they dig down below in Tveria, in the lower part of Tveria, lower part of New Tveria, you find graves even today. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, okay, I'll try to solve the problem. And there are different versions, but he took little hummus, how do you say hummus, the weed, the hummus plant, and little balls of hummus, and he threw them, and whenever they touched, that's where the bodies came out, and that's the famous story of the purification of Tveria by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and his son was with him also, Elazar. He purified Tveria. Okay, so that's a wonder worker. The problem is that after Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, they continued burying the dead, so we still find many graves there. I myself excavated a number. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Talmud is a wonder worker, and however, Lag BaOmer only formed later on, in the Middle Ages. In fact, Miron wasn't only famous for hundreds of years in the Middle Ages. It wasn't only famous for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It was more well known because of Hillel and Shammai that were buried there, according to tradition. Rabbi Yochanan HaSandlar, Rabbi Tarfon, and others, okay, including characters from the Zohar are buried there. So we have a whole number of great sages buried in Meron, and among them Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So if we go back 1,000 years, 900 years, 800 years, and we read the sayings, what the writings of the Olei Regel, the people who came to Eretz Israel to visit, and they go to Meron, they only mention Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai among the others. The first ones that are mentioned are Hillel and Shammai. They used to go there every year on the 14th of Iyar, Yudalid Iyar, which is, I think, Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday.
Okay? Now, Yudalid Iyar is the Hilula of Rabbi Meir Bar Anes in Tveria. We don't know his Yortzah, we don't know his date of death. They made it because it's 4 days before Lag BaOmer. So on the way up to Meron, they should stop in Tveria also. That's why Yudalit Nisan. It's also Pesach Sheni. But it was also the day they used to go to Meron to Hillel and Shammai.
But are the graves of Hillel and Shammai visible today?
Of course. The Hillel and Shammai, it doesn't say, there's no inscription saying, here is Hillel and here is Shammai. But the cave of Hillel is underneath the building, is below the building of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. You can go there. If the doors open, you walk in. You see one of the nicest archaeological finds, a beautiful burial cave, a beautiful, I like to say, I'm an archaeologist, I say a beautiful burial cave. For some people it may not be beautiful, but it's well carved. It has niches, and you can go in and understand by looking at it what a grave, what a burial cave looks like. You know, Bava Batra is a whole Mishnah explaining how to build one. It explains that if you give money to a certain person and you, a proprietor, you bring him to make for you a cave, in the Bava Batra it says exactly how many niches he has to make if you give him the money to make it. Okay? And so we have there the cave, according to tradition, a tradition that's about 1,000 years old in writing. See, when we talk about traditions, we have to understand the traditions are written down, but there were probably oral traditions even before. So the first time we have written down this tradition is about 900 years ago. Hillel v'Shammai at Meron. Don't ask me how they got there, because they're not mentioned in Meron. They lived in Yerushalayim,
Is it in the
first
south?
century
Is it
BCE.
in the south side?
If you go around down below, you can see there's a sign there. And it should be open. The last time I was there, it was open. So Hillel Shammai was there, and on the 14th day of Iyar, which is the day before Pesach Sheni, Tedvav, Yudal Nisan, Pesach Sheni. The Jews of Galilee used to go there and used to pray for a good year, for rain, for a good agriculture. And even when the grandson of the Rambam, Rabbi David Hanagid, he came to Egypt to defend his grandfather's writings, the Moreh Nevuchim, right? The book of the perplexed, I think it's in English. He came to defend his grandfather. He went to that cave, and there he gave a whole speech cursing those who cursed his grandfather. I put a cherem on all those against his grandfather. You know, we talk about the Rambam. Not many know that after his time, in the generations after his time, some people didn't exactly agree or like what he wrote. It's hard to fathom. So Rabbi David Hanagid came and he went there to Meron, not to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He went to Ma'at, to the cave of Hillel and Shammai. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai becomes very super famous and much more, I guess, important in the 16th century. The Ari. But the Ari didn't start like Ba'omer celebration. It was done before. It was done before by the Jews living here, by the Musar Rabim, by the Jews living here who never left Eretz Israel. And he accompanied them. He defended their minhagim, their customs. And that's when people more and more started going to Shimon Bar Yochai, sitting there learning Zohar. Another important aspect, another important thing to be mentioned is that during the 15th, 16th century, they started printing. And they started printing the Zohar. And so the Zohar could be easily read. It was probably not understood so much at the Aramaic, just like it's hard to understand today, the Zohar. But it was printed. And so people knew more people knew about it. And the mystics of Tzfat, the Mekubalim at Tzfat, started going and learning Zohar and Kabalah at Meron, Rabbi Lazar Zikri. It doesn't say only on Lag BaOmer they went. They went in other times of the year, sometimes for 2 weeks or so. They used to go to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Avraham Galanti, Rabbi Avraham Galanti, 17th century, late 60s, early 17th century, started building the building that we know today on top of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and it became the most important site
When is the
in
first
Meron.
mention of the Zohar?
What?
When is the first mention of the Zohar? I know that the Ramak has a parish of the Zohar. When is the first mention of the Zohar itself?
Okay. I'm not an expert on Zohar. Ani lo mekubal. I say, ani bekoshi mekubal al ishti.
You're a historian. But you're a historian.
Okay. A Jewish tradition says that Rabbi Moshe Dilaon rediscovered the Zohar in Spain. Okay, tradition says that it was buried in a cave in Meron. It was found, discovered. It went from hand to hand and reached Spain and rediscovered by Rabbi Moshe de Leon.
And when was this?
This is the 13th century. But this is something that Jewish tradition maintains. And if you go to learn in Hebrew University, you may hear other thoughts about the Zohar. But the tradition says that the Zohar written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's very Galilean. The Zohar talks, it describes the Galilee. Okay, from many years ago, there was a book written by Professor Tishby, Mishnat Zohar, And there's a whole chapter on how the places of Galilee are mentioned there. So I don't know more to say about that. About Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Zohar, the Ari, Kabalah, Rabbi Chaim Vital, Rabbi Elazar Zikri, they're connected to Meron, to the west of us, of course. Sefer Charedim, Rabbi Elazar Zikri. So I like to say he's the giant of Tzfat. I think I mentioned it once already. I'm going to say it again, probably. See, I don't even remember. Maybe I think we mentioned it, but there was a big argument on the celebration of Lag BaOmer, because already in the 16th century, the simple Jews, the Mustalabim, the locals who were here in Tzfat, some of them never left Eretz Israel ever. And I mentioned this before. We have some of these families here in Tzfat today. The Levi family, Eliyahu Levi. Okay, and some of them are here for years, for 2,000 years. They used to go to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai also and celebrate and dance and sing. And when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai started becoming more important, okay, so the Sfaradim came from Sfarad, Zohar, and Kabalah. So they started going to Meron and they started celebrating. So who went? Men and women together went. So Rabbi Yosef Karo, our neighbor here behind the wall, clapped down on the stand and said, wait a minute, there are too many people going there together, mixed men and women. And the Beit Din sat and said, it's not so good. We shouldn't do it. And they gave a psak. They canceled the celebration of Lag BaOmer, not Lag BaOmer itself. They canceled the celebration together, going there to on Lag BaOmer. Rabbi Chaim Vital heard this. Rabbi Chaim Vital tells his master, the Ari, that they canceled the celebration of Lag BaOmer. And the Ari got very angry. He said, Oy vavoy, if they do that, there's going to be a plague. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wants us to come. And so Rabbi Chaim Vital said, what can I do? Rabbi Yosef Karo, he's the head of the Beit Din. I don't even have smicha yet. Rabbi Chaim Vital got smicha from the Alshech only in the 1590s. I'm not even a rabbi. What can I do? You have to do something about it. And so the Ari said, they didn't invite me. So Rabbi Chaim Vital went to the Beit Din and said, we want you to hear what the Ari has to say. So the Ari went to the Beit Din and he told them, you have to be very careful. He said it mildly. He didn't want to upset the Dayanim. Okay, he was a young guy. He was 30, 37, 38 years old. Rabbi Yosef Karo was already in his 80s. And so he said, we have to go. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wants us to go. I tell in my stories, I say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai came to the Ari and told him, tell them that I want to come. It doesn't say that. In the story that we have in a manuscript in Moscow, in the library, okay, this is a story from there. It says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that Yosef Karo said not to go. The Ari said, we have to go because he wants us to come. It doesn't say how he knew that. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he wants us to come on that day. It's his day of simcha. It doesn't say that in the story. I'm quoting Rabbi Chaim Vital Shara Kavanot. It's his Yom Simchato, his day of celebration, because he didn't pass away. He was left alive and he kept the Torah going. That's a reason for celebration. So the Ari told them, if we don't go, there's going to be a plague. And when he said that, okay, the Dayanim of Tzfat, they got scared. And they annulled the Gzera, they annulled the cancellation. They said, okay. It doesn't say, they could have solved they could have put a mechitza there. It doesn't say that. I'll say one more thing though. I remember it says in the story that the Ari adds something. He tells the Dayanim, you know, when they go together, okay, I understand. But each person, he has to watch over for himself. Okay, there's no arivut. How do you say arivut in English?
Mixing.
What?
Mixing.
There's no, arivut means
Oh,
arivut.
responsibility.
Yafe. There's no responsibility that's public. In other words, each one is not responsible for the others. Each one should be by himself and watch over himself. The Ari was giving his opinion in Halacha also. He dared to give his opinion in Halacha at the Beit Din. And he said, in this case, each one is responsible for himself and not, and he was saying, we have to go, we have to do it, and they did it. Until today, we go to Meron. Not everybody. Okay, the Khatam Sofer in Hungary, okay, 250 years ago, didn't like the idea of Lag BaOmer. It's a new holiday. It's not mentioned in the sources. Things are done there that he didn't like. Burning clothing, okay? Burning cloths. He didn't like that. And he's influenced people until today. The people say, don't go. Okay? Okay, many of the Litaim, Khatam Sofer. They're not against Lag BaOmer, they're against going there and doing things on that day. And even if it's his Yortzeit, it's not a day of celebration. So we still have this argument, but people go today. That's a little bit about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Certainly one of the giants. Yes, of Tzfat. If anybody finds an historical source of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's time that he's mentioned in Tzfat, I'd like to know. But we know he lived in Meron, he was all over the Galil, he lived in Tzipori, he lived in Pki'in, and he's certainly one of the giants of Tzfat.
The minhag of doing halakha.
That's the Ari.
That's the Ari.
He brought his son from Egypt. And although the Chalakah, I think, is known before, the first Chalakah we know about is the son of the Ari. Was he 3 years older or not? I don't know. But that we know. That's his minhag. Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, okay. Okay, sure.
Very timely. Very
I
timely.
want to say that, I forgot to say, this, I don't have it in my computer. A great article on Ashby. The Israelis don't know about it because it's in English. Okay, even though he's a Hebrew-speaking rabbi and professor from Bar-Ilan University, but he wrote it in English and it wasn't translated into Hebrew. It's all about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Talmud.
Can you send this to the group?
I can't because I don't have it. I looked for it this morning. I don't have it as a PDF. I only have it printed out. I printed it out, I think, in Hebrew University library.
I'll look for
Many
a
years
scholar. Maybe it's a Google Scholar.
If you want to get it through him, Ben Zion Rosenfeld, okay, he's still around. He's in his 70s, and maybe he has it in his computer.
If you get it, would you share it with us? Yes.
Send him our-
That's probably a good idea. It's not necessary to go off in the middle. That's what I want to avoid. And I think it's probably fine. I'm going to control myself and not go into a whole conversation about what was just being discussed here.
This one needs to go up, right?
Yeah.
About this, something?
You can put it on. You can close it and put it on the desk. It works. Well, either way.
Has to go up higher. It has to go here. So if it doesn't go up that high, then just move it to
This
this.
is higher.
Then move the whole close it down and put the whole tripod up here. Thank you. Okay, is this thing going?
Yeah, it's going. to the, but it's not written. I'd like to see them.
Okay, this one.
How about
You just skedoodle the light over. I got this. You just get the light going over here. That's good, perfect. And then just bring the light over, Shlomo. Thank you.
like this?
It's okay.
The light?
No, it should be more over there, at least here. Thanks. The closer it is to the center, the better it is for me.
Can I help you there?
Okay. This doesn't go any higher? Does this go any higher? Oh, amazing. Much better, much better, much better, much better. Okay, thank you. Okay, obviously that's a problem. Okay, that's good.
You ready?
Did you push play? Did you push play on both of them? Oh, can I put my own card in? Can I, so I can take it home? I have the card. Just pop it out, pop this in. We're running a little late.
You do that because you're gonna have to change it afterwards. He wants to put his card in, and then we'll put our card back in and give it to Elio when he comes. Where's your card?
Oops, this thing is broken already, huh? I just gave it to him, didn't I? No? Here's this one.
You want that one?
Good to see you, Rabbi.
And you have to make sure we don't mix them up. This is number 5.
Thank God. There's something bad. This thing has to, the bottom has to go up here. This, I don't know how to make it do that, but
So this one is now,
it's recording?
no, not yet.
Okay.
You want it recording?
A second.
When you're ready. So the next one after this is Elio.
And he takes the
You
card.
can go and he can close up if you need to go afterwards.
Can you try to move that a little bit over? I know it's annoying for everybody, but it's
It
good.
needs to go around. Well, this?
It's good. Lower, no, lower is better too. A little bit lower. 'Cause I'm not wearing glasses, so it can go much lower. As low as you can get it. You can just start. This is everything's lopsided. Much better. Thank you. Much better for me. Okay, thank you. Okay,
More adjustments?
that's fine. Thank you. Just push play. Thank you very much.
Who
Don't
said
be,
Hollywood wasn't here?
yeah, okay, here we go.
Hollywood in small.
Is this going? This is live, and that's you push and record.
This is it, Tzfat. Ready to go? 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, as always, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So this is our class. We're calling this class Alshech Kabalah 102, because in this class, we're going to be reading directly from the articles. The other class is slightly more introductory, because it's we're reading from a book that's a compilation that just takes little excerpts from everywhere. And so here, if we apply ourselves, we'll be able to go through all the articles, or keep going through the articles of the Bala Sulam, and really start to become, this is a primer for learning Kabbalah and practicing Kabbalah and doing Kabbalah. So that's what we're doing here. So I just want to say, every class, I start the class, and before the class, leading up to the class, I always think to myself, what can I say in this time of war, in this time of tremendous crisis, to try to explain to people what it is that Kabbalah is, and why Kabbalah is specifically the solution for what we're going through in this world. And so I just want to say that, we see that, we're here in Israel, and we're in the middle of a war, and we're not only in a physical war, but we're also in a media war. And we see tremendous amount of hostility, and it seems to us, at least, and our friends and the friends of the Jewish people, it seems almost, bizarre that people are angry, and everything that happens, people turn it upside down, and we're just flabbergasted. We're like shocked that people are so, attacking the Jewish people, and this, of course, has happened many times throughout history. And so I want to just respond with exactly what the Baal HaSulam says and what the Torah says. And so the Torah says that the Jewish people workshopped a specific method, and why the Jewish people were chosen and how they were, after many kinds of, machinations, this method was given to a very select group of people in history. That's something that the Baal HaSulam discusses, but let's not go into that right now. Let's just make the point that in Kabbalah, it says that the reason why the people of the world are upset with the Jews is because the Jews have this method for uniting above oppositional forces, making peace between different forces. And anytime the world goes into crisis, it's cyclical, and as we move closer and closer to the end times, we end up with bigger and bigger crises, and people are upset because they feel subconsciously, either for good or for bad, that the Jewish people somehow, they can't articulate this, but they feel deep inside that the Jewish people have a method, have a way for bringing peace to the world. And the Baal HaSulam explains that this is the method of Torah and mitzvos, and that Kabbalah is the stripped down version of this methodology so that we can understand it. And so if we are not practicing this method, Torah and mitzvos, with the internal aspect, with the internal meaning and purpose of creation, if we're not doing that, then, and we're not sharing it with people who are ready to hear it, that is what is bringing on the anger and the hostility from people around the world. And so that's why this class and the other classes in Kabbalah and any classes in Hassidut or Torah and mitzvos that present this method to the world is literally the only way, according to Kabbalah, that the world is going to make peace with us, and the people are going to be happy with the Jewish people. So yes, we have to fight with the weapons, with the military, and yes, we have to fight in the media, and we have to do all those things, but we should know that at the very root of everything is the fact that the Jewish people have, and if you really want to explore this, you can learn it inside. The Baal HaSulam explains this point by point, how it is that the Jewish people ended up with this specific mission. We're not going to go into that now, but it's definitely covered in the articles of the Baal HaSulam, and eventually we will get to an article that dives deep into this issue and explains it. It sounds very unlikely, but that's exactly what the Baal HaSulam says, that this is what we're up against. And so everybody is a soldier in some way or another. If you're working, whatever you're doing, you're somehow working for the war effort. So the people who are here, who are connected to us, who are learning Kabbalah, this is our task, to not only learn Kabbalah, but to practice the method of Kabbalah and to make it available to the world, and to show the world that we are in fact living up to our obligation, to our Brit. We have a Brit with God to be the light unto the nations, and that we're actually doing this work, and we have to show it better so that people who want to attach themselves to this process have the opportunity and see that the Jewish people are in fact doing this work. Okay, I hope that made sense. Here we go. We're going back into the article. We're learning the article, and this article is called Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, where the Baal HaSulam begins to explain the Torah and mitzvos according to the inner aspect, the secret aspect, the language of branches and roots, which explains all of the worlds in spirituality and how we ended up in this place and how we work ourselves back up. And that's what we've been discussing. And so let's go into the text. Through the natural remedy of the engagement in Torah and mitzvos lishma, meaning for her sake, meaning for God's sake, which the giver of the Torah knows, as our sages wrote in Kedushin 30b, that's the Gemara, the Talmud, the Creator says, I have created the evil inclination, I have created for it the Torah as a spice, as medicine. So this is what we've been saying all along, is that God wanted to create a beautiful world, a world where we gives over pleasure to the created beings, and God knew that the most ideal way of giving over pleasure, the highest pleasure, would be if the created beings had an opportunity to be like God, to not only be a receiver of everything, but to be not only to be a receiver, a taker a recipient of all the great things, but also to be able to participate and become a giver in our own right. And that's why we have free will, and that's why all of these cascading worlds happened. Each time a decision was made. Imagine you wanted to fix a car. So first you'd say, I need a garage. And then you get the garage, and then you say, I need this, and I need that. So this is how the worlds came into being, is that we, the created beings, said, I don't want to just take everything. I want to become closer to God by becoming like Him. And so a decision was made to leave all the goodness of the world of Ein Sof, to say, I don't want anything for free anymore. From now on, I want to do the work of trying to do it of being in this relationship and being a participant in this relationship. I don't want to just get everything for free. Just like kids in the house, a rich kid, and 14, 15, everything is fantastic, and all of a sudden 16 years old, and the kid says, I don't want to take anything for free anymore. I want to make it on my own. I want to get a job, and I want to become a big shot on my own. And so this is a very natural method, a very natural science that we can understand very clearly. Okay? So what we're witnessing is a cascading of all these worlds down to this world where we can start to do the work of becoming givers. That's what's happening. And we do that by balancing all of the different forces in nature. So I'm going in different directions, but the point is that this method is the method by which we put everything back together. So if people are fighting and people are angry at each other, it's because they're separated and they can't make peace between them, between different forces. And so that's what the Torah and mitzvahs came to do, for us to repair all of the damage that happened when we came down to this world. It's complicated, but the more we hear it, the more it's going to make sense, and ultimately it's very logical and makes intuitive sense what's being said here. Okay, let's keep going. Thus, that creature, meaning us, the creature, the creation, develops and marches upward in degrees of the above spoken exaltedness until he loses all remnants of self-love, and all the mitzvos in his body rise, and he performs all his actions only to bestow. So even the necessity that he receives flows in the direction of bestowal, so he can bestow. This is why our sages said the mitzvos were given only to cleanse people with. So the language is a little bit clunky and old-fashioned, but what's being said here is very simple. If you're in a relationship with somebody and they give you a present, you either take the present and enjoy it yourself, or you say, ooh, I have this present, now how do I get even closer to this person? So if somebody says, I want, you on a date, and the person says, I want to take you on a date, I want to take you to this very good restaurant. So you go to the good restaurant. When you get there, you can either say to yourself, your kavana, your intention, your motivation could either be, wow, I got a free lunch. I don't like this person too much, but I got a really amazing lunch, right? And we know that we have, we see videos, if anybody's on social media, which I recommend they're not on, but if you're on social media, you see these kind of videos where a guy asks a girl out, and then the girl really just wants whatever the gifts are. She doesn't want the relationship. And so what we're trying, and that goes both ways, men and women, obviously. So what we're talking about here is that when we get something, we can either use it selfishly, or we can use it to get even closer to the oneness, to everybody, to the whole community, to the whole world, to nature, to God, right? This is what we're talking about. And so it seems so simple, and it's what we tell kids. But when we start to do the work, we see that this is such a difficult task that it takes 6,000 years to accomplish, and it takes 620 levels. So it says the Baal Shem explains from the Gemara, that God gave the Jewish people, I think we say in davening, Uvalat Zion, I think we say, that because God loves us, He gave us so many mitzvos. So what does it mean? That He gave us many, many, many little steps we could take. So if you're going up a mountain and each step is like a giant, where you have to pull up each step, it's very hard, even if there's only 30 steps. Mm-hmm. But if you have 300 steps and each one of them is like this, you can walk up comfortably. And so this is what we're talking about, is that 620 different mitzvos for accomplishing this, and all this time. So the whole cycle of all the holidays and all these things that we're doing are all the structure for this internal work. That's what we're talking about. Makes sense, right? Okay. There are two, let me see. there are two parts in the Torah. Is this recording? It's recording? Yeah. Both, yeah?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Sorry, I'll cut that out when we. Okay. There are two parts of the Torah. One, mitzvos between man and God, and two, mitzvos between man and man. And they both aim at the same thing, to bring the creature to the final purpose of the vekos with him. Okay, I'm going to read it again. There are two parts of the Torah, the mitzvos between man and God, and the mitzvos between man and man. And they are both aimed at the same thing, to bring the creature to the final purpose of the vekut with him, with God. Now, so we know we have the 10 commandments. Half of them are between you and your fellow man, and half of them are between you and God. So here, that's the amazing thing about learning Kabbalah of Ashlag. Rav Ashlag, he tells you secrets over and over again. Every time you read a paragraph, you hear secrets. It's the same thing. These are two halves of the same whole. God is a unity. God is everything all at once, which is very, very hard for us to deal with. Because we're dealing with a finite being, dealing with the infinite. So therefore, the way the world was created, and this is something we have to learn step by step and step, we're going to learn. But all the people we see around us are really parts of ourselves. But they're broken, the shattering of the vessels in Kabbalah. So when we broke apart, we were all together, receiving all the pleasure, and then we broke apart into all these little pieces because God wanted us to put it back together. It's like, imagine you get a beautiful, you have a beautiful painting, and your daughter or your son says, "I love this painting," so you buy them the puzzle so they can put it back together themselves, so they can have ownership over this painting. That's exactly what God did. He wants us to have ownership over what He's giving us. So He didn't want us just to receive because, although God could do that, and He did do that in the world of Ein Sof, there's something limited about that. And what's limited about it is that God is the giver and we're the receiver, so we're very far away from Him. This is very true. If you want to see a perfect example of this, go to a party. And you'll see that the people who are throwing the party, even though everybody's smushed into the same space, go to a fancy restaurant. You'll see that even though everybody's in the same area, they have these restaurants where the kitchen is open and you can see them cooking the food. Everybody's in the same space, but half the people are giving the food to the other people, and the other people are taking the food. So there's a huge rift between these two people, even though they're coming together to do something. So God wants not only to be a taker, but to be a giver like Him, so you feel what it's like to be a giver. And you have two parts of yourself. You have the giving part and the receiving part. Guess what that's called? A relationship. God wants a relationship with us. Kabbalah is the method by which we improve the relationship by becoming similar to Him. So if you have a friend and your friend just constantly wants you to drive him somewhere and lend him money, it's a certain kind of relationship you have with him. But if he sometimes lends you money and you sometimes lend him money, and sometimes you drive him somewhere and sometimes he drives you somewhere, it's a much different relationship. So God wants the better relationship with us. It's very simple, right? But we have to do it. We have to do the work. Okay. I made a bracha before the camera went on. Okay, I have to say that. We have to make sure that people know we are a Orthodox, observant outfit over here. Okay, very good. Yes, it's good to say it. Furthermore, and again, we said last time that they will have classes about how to connect the outside of the work and the inside of the work for people who are observant, doing the whole Torah the right way. That's a very big conversation, but let's not have that now. Let's keep it in the text. Okay. Furthermore, even the practical side in both of them is really one and the same, because when one performs an act of lishma without any mixture of self-love, meaning without finding any benefit for himself, then one does not feel any difference whether one is working to love one's friend or to love the Creator. Secret. These are secrets of like quantum physics, beyond quantum physics. These are the spiritual laws of the universe. What they're saying here is that when you are able to get to the level where you do something for somebody just because you love them and just because it feels like that's what you want, without what and at all, you never thought why it's going to help you. It's not going to help you. It helps you or it doesn't help you. It's not even in your mind. You don't care. You just want to be giving in bestowal to this person. What the Baal Shalom is telling you there, when you do that, you will see God. You will experience God. God will reveal Himself through the person. So now imagine, you have these great rabbis, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and people would come to him, and come to him, and come to him, and he just wants to help them. This is like a neural net. You know, we have all of these, like, you know, we have the internet, and every computer is part of this neural net that brings us this reality. So you're saying, where is God? God is not here. Why did God make a world where I don't see him? Okay, this is the method for revealing God, Torah and mitzvos. And so when you enter into bestowal, what's going to happen is the whole world is going to become, a switch is going to be thrown, and all the connections between every single person and every rock and every plant and everything is going to be connected. What's going to happen when it's connected? It's going to be like, imagine you saw electricity, you were sitting and you saw electricity between all of us. Now imagine between the electricity, you saw a wholeness. You see this like when you see, like, they try to represent like an acid trip or fractal patterns or any of these things, like, right? These trippy things, these paintings, they're trying to hint to you that really everything you're seeing is one thing with energy flowing through it, right? There's an atom in me, there's an atom in you, and all of these things are somehow connected, and we don't see it. And this is exactly what happens to a person when they enter into this higher consciousness. Everything becomes godly, and everything is a message to them, and everything that they're doing is a message to God. That's the relationship. So look where we are with technology, and look where we are with like all of psychedelics, and people are interested in mushrooms and psychedelics and stuff. This is what the Torah is. We should not think it's something else. That, oh, there's, you know, quantum physics and mushrooms and LSD, and there's being nice to people, and then there's this other thing, the Torah, and there's the Jewish people, and there's the rest of the world. No. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get to a place where we flip a switch and everything becomes connected. And we all feel that sometimes. Sometimes you feel some connection outside of yourself between people. Let's say you're surfing or you're having a very beautiful day and you feel just like the magic and the electricity between people. You feel it. So what the Baal Shem is saying is we need modern language to understand how to get there, because people are confused and people weren't ready to do this in 400 years ago and 800 years ago. Very few people were able to do this, right? They would they do all this kind of work. And so what the Baal Shem is saying is, let's get a uniform language. Let's talk about giving and taking. And from that language, if you focus on that your motivation, whether you're trying to give or you're trying to take, and you start to realize that that's the thing that you're trying to fix, you will be able to do this work, and you get together with people who are also speaking the same language. We can all do this work, and this is what we're talking about. Okay, so it's very magical. It's very like futuristic. It's a beautiful, wondrous thing that we're talking about, and we have to like leave behind our old way of thinking about things, because there's information inside of the Torah that we haven't been using because we've been in galut, in the exile. We haven't been ready for it, and now, yes. What?
That's not yet revealed.
So everything is revealed and becoming more revealed, and so things are some people are an atheist living in somewhere in whatever, and they have very little revelation. And here you have a tremendous amount of revelation of what's going on. And there's people who are more advanced than you who have even more revelation. So it's like the example that I like to give, I don't know if it's in Kabbalah, but imagine there's a gate, one of the gates to go into the old city of Jerusalem, to go to the temple. So imagine there's 20,000 people going through the gate. So it's very, very, only 2, 3, 4 people can go through the gate at once. So even though Mashiach is inside the gate, and there's people walking in through the gate and saying, oh, Mashiach is here. Oh, higher consciousness is coming. Oh, the unity, I see what's happening. I see I'm here. But there's people who are just before the gate, and they are hearing that what you're saying, but they have to go through the gate to see it. And there's people who are 20 feet back, and there's people who are, 50 feet back. And so it's like we're all one group of people. We're all one soul, but some people are entering right now, and some people were entering 3 years ago, and some people are entering 100 years ago. 5 of the Rashi and Rambam and Ramban and then the Bala Sulam, and then these people entered already, but we're part of the same unified soul, but we're all going when we go in. So that's why it says in one of the first lessons in Kabbalah is that a person has to awaken to this. A person wakes up every morning and says, oh, I want to be happy, and for me, being happy means getting a very good car, and a very beautiful house in 5 towns and this and that and getting into, whatever they're thinking, that's okay. But if they're not thinking, I want to awaken to love and unity and figure out, is there a way for the whole world to come into balance and peace with everybody else, and for everybody to share in this beautiful thing and to raise our consciousness. If a person's not thinking that, then they're not going to have any interest in what we're saying here. They're going to go to another video, right? So we are all, let's put it this way. Whatever has awakened inside of you, you can give it a name. You can call it Moshe Rabbeinu. You can call it the Baal Sulam. You can call it Aaron. You can go, as you take steps, you will look inside of yourself and you will feel that the names that you were learning about in the Torah are really names for your correction, for you fixing yourself. And when it wakes up, you'll say, oh, I feel Moshe Rabbeinu. I feel, that's why I famously say I went to lunch at Shlomo Gatzi and he asked people, who's your favorite character in the Bible? And I said, we were going around the table and I said, Esav. And everybody was very shocked. I said, because I know Esav. I know what it feels like to want to beat up everybody and to want to win and to want to take everything for myself. I know what that feels like. So that's a force that's awakened inside of me. And if I look for Avram Avinu, it's smaller. And I look for Yaakov, it's smaller, right? So we have to grow these, the light has to go into the vessel. And so when you go around all day long thinking about giving, you know what's going to happen? Avram Avinu is going to come to you in your heart. You're going to feel your Avram. You're going to feel that part of yourself, and you're going to see it. No one's going to have to tell you what Avram is. You're going to know what Avram is, who it is, what it is. It's you. It's all of us. Okay. Yeah? We have to learn how to read the Torah on this Kabbalistic level. Okay. This is so because it is a natural law for any being that anything outside one's own body is regarded as unreal and empty, and any movement that a person makes to love another is performed with a reflected light and some reward that will eventually return to him and serve him for his own good. Thus, such an act cannot be considered love of another because it is judged by its end. It is like rent that finally pays off. However, the act of renting is not considered love of another, okay? Very simple. In simple English is that if I do something for you and I don't love you, meaning I don't feel you, so if you do something for your mother or for your kid, that's giving. You gave it away. You're happy, you had $5 and now your kid has $5 and you're completely happy. There's nothing else has to happen. You did exactly what you wanted. You wanted to give, right? But if I give you a lift to Tel Aviv, because I'm hoping that someday you'll be nicer to me when I see you in shul, or maybe you'll lend me money if I need money, or whatever else I'm thinking, that's not really love. That's a contract. I'm trying to show what the wisdom of Kabbalah is that as we learn to love people, they go from being a projection outside of ourselves to being inside of us. So if you have somebody you love, please God, your mother or your father or one of your children, and you close your eyes, they are inside of you. You feel them inside of yourself. You don't have to, so when you give something to them, you're giving it to yourself. I'm giving my daughter a new game. Who am I giving that game to? I'm giving to myself. I love myself and I love my daughter. She's part of me. That's it. The bigger, so I was once in a shul, and this man passed away, I think he passed away, and a rabbi, and somebody else got up to speak to him, and he said he took care of 500 people that he never told anybody. Not only with money, but with everything, with going to their house and helping them in every kind of crisis they had in their life. He had so he said, this person has a huge life. He was a very quiet person who would go in shul, you wouldn't notice him. So you see him very small on the outside, but on the inside, he's a huge person. He has 500 people that love him, that he loves, that he takes care of. So this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to expand this vessel of bestowal inside of ourselves and moderate our vessel of reception. So we know that, let's say we have a person who is an athlete. They want the exact amount of taking in order to win the race. So oxygen, food, everything they take in, they want to take in the right amount to get the job done. That is what is missing in the world, is that I don't know how much I need to take to get the job done, and I don't feel the reward, so I say, maybe I'll just eat more and more cake. Maybe I'll just collect more and more cars, right? And so we're out of balance. Look at the spheros. It's all about balancing all of these forces. We're in Sphiras HaOmer now, right? We're counting the Omer. We're trying to balance all of these different energies for what? For the task of unifying and bringing God's purpose for creation to fruition, to be a partner with God and to make this thing happen. That's the balance. How much money do I need to get the job done for God, for the job that He gave me? So you're working for somebody and he says, I need you to go around the world and make sure and go look for, I don't know, we need some more metals for our factory. So you're now going to get the amount of money you need to get that job done. Okay, it's as simple as that. So when we say, how much money do I want? How much honor do I want? We want to know, how much do I need to get to do the job that I'm trying to do, which is to fix the world, love everybody, right? Simple as that. Okay. But making any kind of movement only as a result of love of others, without any spark of reflecting light, and no hope of any kind of self-gratification in return, is completely impossible by nature. It is written in the Tikkunei HaZohar about that with regard to the nations of the world, every grace that they do for themselves. Okay. When we say in Kabbalah, when we say the nations of the world, we mean everything inside of ourselves that's selfish. And when we say a Yid, a Jew, a Israelite, Yisrael, Yashar Kel, straight to the Creator, we mean that force inside of us that wants to be connected to everybody. We should not get confused. In Kabbalah, we're talking about the internal landscape. So when we say man and we say woman, when we say Jew and Gentile, we have to know that these are spiritual forces. And so we should only be all of the good characters that we mention and none of the bad characters. But unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the work starts with recognition of evil, with acknowledging that the evil forces in the Bible, in the Torah, are inside of us. Egypt is inside of us. Paro is inside of us. When we do the corrections, we turn Egypt into a good place, and we turn Paro into a good leader. But we have to first, recognition of evil is now they don't teach you this in the revealed Torah, because if a person is not ready to do this internal work, it's much, much better that it says love in the Talmud. Love covers over everything. So it's very important that if a person is not ready to do the work, we don't force people. And the rabbis, the great rabbis of every generation, they know exactly what they're doing. And so their responsibility is to their community. And so if a person says 90% outside of the Torah, 10% of the inside of the Torah, and this is a gadol in Torah, don't think that you're all of a sudden, because you're reading an article by the Baal Shem, that you know better than these great rabbis. They know about their own people because they are communal souls, so they feel their own people and they know when it's appropriate. So if you say to your daughter, you can go, when you're 15 years old, you can go to the high school party, and your neighbor says, no, my 15-year-old cannot go to that party. Don't get involved in other people's decisions making. They know their own. The Satmar Rebbe once got angry at somebody when he said the guy was, complaining about a lot of different things, and that was fine. And then all of a sudden the Satmar Rebbe asked the guy to stop and to be quiet. And so the Hasidim afterwards, they said, Rabbi, he was complaining the whole time for an hour, and then finally you said stop. What did he do that made you stop? He said he told me how I should treat you guys. He said he could tell me all the things he wants to tell me about how the world works, but once he starts telling me that I should do something different with my Hasidim, I tell him that it's enough from him. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that a person has to this internal world, this internal language has to be something that a person awakens to. And we don't force it on somebody else, we make it available. And so there's something very deep in that takes years of Kabbalah to understand here. It says, but making any kind of movement only as a result of love of others without any spark of reflected light, a person cannot do any of this stuff, cannot actually act truly outside of their own nature. So I'm hesitant to go into what this means in Kabbalah, because it's a lot of Kabbalah, but basically I'll try to do simply, and you hear it one time, and then you have to hear it many, many times. So in the world of Ein Sof, everything was together, and then the created being, all of us, the united soul of all of humanity, said, I don't want anything for free anymore. Okay? So when the created being pushed, that was Simsum Aleph, that is the first restriction in Kabbalah. When the created being, all of us, pushed away, said, I'm not taking anything else for free, then the light bounced back to God. And when that happens, light bounces back to us, a tiny little sliver. And that is called Or Hasidim, the reflected light. And so that light is the light that gives us power to do something to do a tiny little, the first mitzvah, to do something altruistically, to do something for somebody else. So let's think of an example we can think of in this world. Let's say you are going to Florida, you're going to go to the beach for spring break, and you want to drop 10 pounds. So normally, you get pleasure because you eat pizza. But now you want to go to the beach, and you want to look good, so you're not eating pizza. So there's a little bit of kind of pleasure that you get from saying no, right? So they say about a mitzvah, that a mitzvah is anything that you do and you feel better about it afterwards. And Aveira is anything that you do and you feel bad about it afterwards, right? So what we're saying here is that when we learn Kabbalah, when we start to learn all of the simsumim, all of the restrictions and how everything cascades down, we see that there is a light that you get from not doing something selfishly. And that light allows you to start to build. Okay, so that's what I'm saying it because the Baal HaSulam said it right here. Okay, and some reward that will eventually return to him and serve him for his own good. He's saying that we always calculate. I'm being nice to you and I invite you to lunch, but I'm thinking about all the ways that it's going to help me. You're going to say hello to me in public and you're going to be nice to me. Maybe you'll invite me over, right? So I'm always thinking about this and I can't stop thinking about that. Even there's no way to until I do Torah and mitzvahs. There's no way to actually, so we've never felt the feeling of just being happy because I gave to you. So it says in the Gemara that a person could not move their little pinky if they didn't have self-interest in mind. A person would not do anything if they could not figure out how it's going to ultimately. So I'm sitting here and we're learning Kabbalah and I'm still thinking in the back of my head, how is this going to make me rich, taller, famous, happy, all these things, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's why when we're big boys and we graduate, we have to admit that I'm not doing everything just because I'm the most amazing person in the world. I'm doing things for myself. And out of that place, out of that darkness, we could start, that's why it's called the ladder, right? The master of the ladder, the Baal HaSulam. That's like from this little place of saying, hey, I wonder what it would feel like if I could do one thing today that I'm not going to get anything for. So like I'm davening and I'm saying to myself, I need a house, I need a boat, I need this, and I'm saying, oh yeah, and this one guy, he's sick, he's in the hospital, he's having a heart attack, he should get better. And then then as soon as I say that, I say to myself, oh, I'm sure God's going to like that I said that I'm talking about somebody else, and maybe he'll give me the boat faster because I said I care about this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy. There's nothing you can do about it. And so that's what we're trying to. That's unless you're a tzaddik, unless you're Rabbi Shimon, unless you're the Rav Nachman, unless you're the Alter Rebbe. These people did all this work. The Baal HaSulam, they did this work. They know what it feels like. But from the outside, it doesn't look so good. It looks like they're sitting there all day and learning and wearing black and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, maybe I'll just go to the beach and I'll let somebody else worry about it. That's why the Baal HaSulam says that if we don't do the task that the Brit, if we don't keep the contract up, the Goyim are going to get very angry at us because only we can do this and they can't do it. We can teach it, we can do it because we did it before. And I'm not going to go into this. There's a whole articles that discuss the entire history from Adam HaRishon all the way till now and how it ended up that the Jewish people ended up with the job. And I'll tell you exactly how it is. Go run a company. And you will see that when you have something that you need to get done, you try to find somebody to do it, and then you go out to this person, this person doesn't want to do it, and this person doesn't want to do it. And so eventually you will find somebody who wants to do it the most out of everybody. And so it's very, very logical. It's not something special. You say, oh, why the Jews? Why the Jews? You guys think you're special. No. So I'm saying, okay, who wants to be nice to everybody? You're having a party, and you tell somebody, do me a favor, instead of sitting here eating pizza with these guys, I have a truck that's coming. Can you do me a favor and run outside? And, hey, dude, I can't. I'm speaking to this guy. And so you go around until you find somebody who says, fine, I'll go outside. Even though this is the biggest party of the year, I'll go outside and I'll wait for the van that's bringing more pizza. So just try it. You'll see it happens. And so for whatever reason, they looked around, and found Avram Avinu. First they found Adam, and then Noach, and then and then Avraham, and then Avram had his kids, and he said, which kid's going to do this job? So he tried to see which one's going to do it, and then Yitzchak said, which one of my kids is going to do this? And then Yaakov looked at his 12 sons, he said, who's going to get this thing done? It's just normal. It's just how it goes. So we say to people who don't like this, okay, become Jewish. Okay, stay however you are and just get on the program. Help, go outside also and bring the pizza in with the guy with the van. Oh no, I don't want to do that. So okay, well, you're complaining that I'm giving a special title to somebody. This title to this person is that he's going outside during the party to go get the pizza for everybody else. And now you tell me you don't like that he's special. So you also be special. Go outside and I'll help him. That's all it is. It's not something that we have to get too crazy about. Everybody's invited to be a good person and try to become better. Okay? Let's keep going. How are we doing on time? It's past? 15 minutes past? Only 15 minutes past? Oh, we have 15 more minutes. Okay, very good. Okay, we're done for today. I hope that made sense. Thank you very much, people in the audience, people in online. You're invited to please to make comments, join us, and come to Alshech Academy website and become a member and participate financially with us. Okay, Am Yisrael Chai. Okay, very good.
Take your card, right?
Yeah, give me the card and switch it out.
It's just your Shulam card, right? You're not taking all of it. Just my own. It's pretty like an ordinary meeting. I fixed the thing, the video being too small.
You figured it out?
Yeah, I just pushed some buttons in it. This one.
This is the one you take then.
Oh, I forgot to do that. This one's also mine. Let me get rid of all this nonsense. Hello, people of YouTube. You always leave when I have to teach.
Then I come back and straight away.
It's going to be a short thing. It's going to be short. It's not going to be that long. 3 pages. It's very short. Tough.
I'll take it, because it came out now. I thought it was only for the interview.
All right, ready? Tov, b'siyata dishmaya, we are in B'yam Darkecha on Pesach and Tzfat Omer. We are going to be learning today about Pesach Sheni, second Pesach, which is coming up on Thursday, B'ezrat Hashem, a very, very important and deep holiday. That is the Torah pretty much meeting the person that was on the path, the person that was far away, the person that wasn't able to be karov, he wasn't able to do a korban Pesach, he wasn't able to bring his mouth closer to the service of Hashem. And all of those people that need a second chance, a second opportunity, this is their chance. So our goal today is B'ezrat Hashem to learn a little bit deeper about what is Pesach Sheni and how it's relevant to every single person, even those that were not far away and even those that did not miss the opportunity. Pesach Sheni, like we said, was instituted in the Torah for everybody that was tameh, that was impure in the first Pesach, or that they were far away and they weren't able to take part in the first Pesach. And this has to do with every single Jew, because every single person, according to their level, according to according to their higher consciousness, their higher level, and on his most choicest being, he wasn't fitting, he wasn't ready for the first Pesach, and it as if he was considered impure, tameh. He was far away from the lights that came down on the first Pesach. Therefore, we have Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach, that it illuminates, and every single Jew can tap into it with all of the secrets that are involved in it and all of the internal content that makes up Pesach Sheni. Lama nigara, the words that they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, those people in the first generation of leaving Egypt, they said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Lama nigara, why are we any worse? Why should we miss out on Pesach because we were doing something that made us tameh,
or we were far away. Lama nigara? Why am I any different? Why am I any worse? Pesach Sheni is a renewal. By way of the Jews asking to come closer to Hashem, the Jews that wanted to be closer to Hashem, and they screamed out, "Anachnu tmeim lenefesh Adam, lama nigara levilti akriv korban Hashem." We are tmeim lenefesh Adam. Why are we tameh? Why are they tameh? Because they were dealing with burial. They were dealing with a holy thing. So me touching a dead body caused me now to also be impure. Also, again, I don't want to say impure. It's not the right word. Tameh means a lack of potential. Right? When you're tahor, when you're filled with potential, you can go inside the Beit HaMikdash, you can come closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, you can do a korban, you can be involved in the avoda of being close to Hashem. Tumah is the lack of potential. Right? What's the highest form of tumah in the world? A dead body. Right? Why? All of the potential is gone. There's no potential there at all. Yesterday, he could praise Hashem and do good things in the world. And now, it's a dead body. No potential at all. That's the highest level of tumah that you can have. So it's still a mitzvah though. Some people have to deal with that level of tumah. Some people have to go and bury that person, right? You have to be involved with that force. But it's a true force. And when a person is engaged with that, then they lose their potential to be able to bring life and vitality and revelation of the source of life in the world, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So even though you need to do it, there's a way to get out of that tumah, right? These people, for whatever reason, at the time of Pesach Rishon, which a lot of them were busy burying the dead from Makat Choshech, right? 80% of Am Yisrael passed away and 2 nights before that, right? So they were dealing with burying their brothers and their sisters and their family. It was a holy thing to do. So they're asking Moshe Rabbeinu, why should we not be able to bring a korban and to come closer to Hashem? Why should we miss out on being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because we were doing a mitzvah? Lama nigara? Why are we left out? Why are we any worse? Gam anachnu rotzim kirvat Hashem. We also want to be close to Hashem. And even though we fell and we're tameh, we still want to come back to Hashem Yitbarach. So to us Jews in the world right now, Yisrael afal pi shechata Yisraelu. Right? It says in the Torah, Israel, in the teachings of Chachamim, Israel, Am Yisrael, a Jew, a Yid, even though he did a sin, he's still called Israel. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew. Doesn't matter how you acted. So why should we be any different and not be able to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? If we want to come and we want to get closeness to Hashem, we want to do a korban, we want to make ourselves closer, we want to bring our whole entire being closer to Hashem, why should we not be able to do that? And the Jews, they taught all of Am Yisrael to not have Yehush, to not have despair. And every single Jew, even if he fell, he can get up, he can ascend, he can get back to his status, he can come back to Hashem Yitbarach. And this is the depth of the claim that they said, Lama nigara? Why should we miss out? I'm still a Jew. I'm still Hashem's chosen people. I'm still part of Am Yisrael. So I fell. Okay, what? Now I can't get back up. I can't come closer to Hashem. And this light is revealed on Pesach Sheni. Every single holiday really is a wellspring. That it's a wellspring to be able to reveal inside of the world that same energy every single time that holiday comes around. Right? Pesach is a time of love, a time of freedom. Right? Shavuot is a time of harmony, of Torah, of Tiferet, of beauty, right? Every single holiday has its wellspring that it's revealing. What is the wellspring of Pesach Sheni? Not giving up. Not giving up. To know that there is a second chance. There is still a chance. Even if you fail, there's still a way to connect to Hashem. And every single Jew needs to go through this energy. Specifically in this last hard generation. A person wants holy things. He has a desire to be holy and to be connected. And sometimes he wants other things. And all the time we ascend and we descend, but we want and we have desires and we yearn and we scream out to Hashem, Lama nigara? Why should I miss out? Because I fell? It's not a good enough reason. And this is what's Pesach Sheni. Pesach, that the mouth is talking, the mouth is moving. The Jews are screaming out, Lama nigara? Why should I miss out? Why am I any different? And we ask from Hashem Rachamim, we ask for Hashem some mercy. Tikraveni elecha gam ani rotze le'akriv korban Hashem. Bring me closer to you. I also want to bring a korban to you, Hashem. I also want to be close to you, Hashem. Bring me closer. And Hashem Yitbarach receives this tshuva. He receives this yearning, this kisufim, and he opens up an opening, a gateway, and a process called Pesach Sheni, which is a process of tshuva, and it's a process of an internal revelation beyond the set paths and beyond the journey, the ways that have already been created. Right? It was a true question. It wasn't from Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't from Hashem. It was the Jews that said, "Hey, I missed out. Why should I miss out? I don't want to miss out." Right? It came from it was an entrepreneurial, it was a startup holiday, right? Why should I be left out? What's the problem? Okay, so I missed the first one. Let me get another one. Chametz u'matzah imo bevayit. Therefore, in Pesach Sheni, there's no prohibition for bayi raev, bayi matzeh. You're not allowed to see chametz in your house. There's nothing like that. It's Pesach, so why are we allowed to have chametz? Why on Pesach Sheni we don't say only matzah? Right? They don't have an isur to see it. Ela chametz imo b'bayit. Chametz is with you in the house. You have your chametz with you, but you don't eat the chametz with the matzah. Because Pesach Rishon, it's the regular way, right? It's the clear path. That there we act also externally, and we clarify and rectify and burn away all of this chametz, and we fight to destroy the klipot, the things that cover up Hashem, and to rectify everything. But now, on the level of Pesach Sheni, mitzad hachitzoniyut en lanu klal shlemut. When it comes to the external aspect of life, we don't have anything called completion. There's no such thing as perfection. The only illumination, the only light that I have on Pesach Sheni is because of what's going on internally. Meaning, since I so much want to connect to Hashem with the depths of my heart, in this situation, it's very dangerous to go fight the Yetzer Hara in an outward way. What's the Yetzer Hara going to come and do? He's going to make a claim against you. He's going to bother you. He's going to oppose you. You want to connect to Hashem and your actions and internally? Who are you? Let's check who you are. Let's go inside and let's start to do a cheshbon. Who are you? Let's see if we can make a, so you stole from that one, you thought about that thing, you looked at that woman, all these different things. All of a sudden, you can't fight him, because if you want to fight him, he's going to fight back, and then we're already dealing with chitzoniyut, we're dealing with external actions, and that we're most times in a problem. Therefore, we so to say leave him in the house. The chametz is with us in the house. We don't go out and we don't take out our chametz on Pesach Sheni and burn it outright. With, so to say, without the Yetzer Hara paying attention, we leave him in the house, but on Pesach Sheni we eat matzah. We eat matzah, but the chametz is in the house too. The Yetzer Hara is still there. I'm not going to fight you outward, but I'm not also going to pay attention to you. Today I'm going to eat matzah. So mashal, what's the mashal? Two ministers in the army, two generals in the army that are fighting one another. They're not able to come to a certain outcome, right? They're tied, they're neck and neck. Then one of them had an idea in his heart, and he made himself as if he's running away, as if he's retreating from the battle. But really what he's doing is he's coming to set up an ambush from a different direction. And the other side, when he sees, the other general sees, the enemy camp is retreating, he thinks, he ran away. So he goes to chase after him from a feeling of victory, of I got him, look, he's running away. So he goes to chase after him. And because he felt like he was the victor, he felt like he was the dominant one, he wasn't careful of the ambush that was waiting for him. And then the other general beat him, right? Because he wasn't really running away, he was just setting it up an ambush. They let their pride get involved, so then they went crazy, and let's charge, and they fell right into a trap. So too, it's the same thing with us. We sort of say we leave the chametz inside the house, but really, we're eating matzah and we're elevating. We're going higher and higher and higher. We're not running away by leaving you in the house. You're there, but I'm eating matzah. I'm continuing to grow internally. The depth here is, there's a way of victory and full cleaning out of the house, internally and externally. And that's Pesach Rishon. That you do the physical work and you do the spiritual work. You take your house and you clean it out of chametz. You burn the chametz. That's a physical act, right? And internally, you also do the work of burning your chametz, right? Which is the main thing that you need to do, right? But whoever wasn't successful then in Pesach Rishon, in the first Pesach, he can't get yaush. He can't have despair. He can't give up from the work that needs to be done. There's another way to do it, and that's to start from the pnimiyut, to start from the internal aspect. Even though you're not perfect externally, you haven't become better externally, and you weren't able to really clean out the chametz from inside of you. What's the advice? Ascend, go into deeper work, deal with the internal aspect, and arouse yourself with a desire and yearning, kisufim to Hashem Yitbarach, and by way of this you will arouse the mercy of Hashem, and He will then illuminate for your heart with the light of Pesach, the light of Emunah. And by way of this, in the end all be all, you will be successful in coming to the tikkun also in your external actions. We can't always fix how we act, but we can fix what we desire, how we desire to act. I want to be a better person, right? It might seem like that's a harder thing to do, to internally want to be better, but really it's easier than to stop doing all the bad things you're doing. To work internally and to say, I might still be doing bad things, but I don't want to be doing them. I want to be a better person. So what's the practical avoda for Pesach Sheni? And with this we're finished. Every single person has to tap into this avoda of Pesach Sheni. Every single person has a part inside of him, has a level inside of him, an idea inside of him, that there he feels far away. He was far away from the Korban Pesach. He feels tameh, he feels impure. He didn't merit to the first Pesach. It didn't do what he was intending for it to do. The avodah wasn't right. Pesach wasn't the Pesach I expected it to be, right? And by way of this, you have to go into the work of Pesach Sheni. And to nurse from that light. The way is, first things first, to scream out to Hashem. To scream out to Hashem that He should bring you closer. Liz'ok lama nigara, scream to Hashem, lama nigara, why am I any different? Why should I miss out? Why should I not have Pesach? Don't think that it's lost. Don't think that there's no way back. The second thing is, don't wait for the time that you're going to be, okay, now I deserve it. Don't wait to get to the point where you think, okay, now it's okay, now I deserve it. Rather, on Pesach Sheni, chametz u'matzah imo bavayit. You have chametz in your house and you're eating matzah. You still have the chametz there. I'm not perfect. I'm not at the level where I deserve it. The chametz is with me in my house. I go into a deeper level of emunah and I start to touch the highest level possible, even though I'm not holding on to it externally by way of my actions. I don't act like that. I'm not really that person externally. And it's not that I'm a hypocrite, right? This is not hypocritical. I act a certain way. I'm not okay with it, but internally, I'm touching over here. My actions show that I'm this kind of person. Everybody outside would look at me as this person down here, but in a level of where I want to be and where I see myself and where I'm tapping into, I'm on a much higher level, holding to a much more pure way. And even though I can't jump levels, I can't skip levels in my growth, I have to go from level to level to level. You can't just, jump 20 levels. I have to be able to taste the light from that higher level, right? Think a person walks inside a building and you can see up the staircase. He lives on the second story, but you can see that the nice apartment up there, right? So I'm not there, I live down here, but I know it's there. I want to be his friend. Maybe I'll go to eat by him for Shabbat. Maybe I want to have some connection, right? It's a bad example, right? But there's something there that's above me, and that's where I want to be. Right? And okay, I'm here, but I'm tasting from a higher place. And slowly, by way of having a connection to that deeper place, I'm able now to have a connection, to have shalom, to have a connection between two things, and to aspire to get there. And this light, the way that it illuminates on this special day called Pesach Sheni, that this light comes down, and the way that it is, it brings closer everybody who is tameh, who is impure, who's lacking the connection, lacking the potential, doesn't feel like they're connected. and they feel like they're distanced from Hashem. And from this day, we learn for the whole entire year not to have despair, not to give up from anything that we experience, from any level that we might find ourselves in. Rather, constantly we have to scream towards that level, scream as Hashem, please bring me closer. I'll go into it, even if I can't do it externally, let me feel it a little bit inside. Let me understand what it is. To trust the mercy of Hashem Yitbarach, that I will ascend and I will be better, everything will be okay, I will reach the level that Hashem desires me to be at. But for sure, in the end, you have to fix everything, even externally. But right now, at the time of need, there's also this way, to start from up above. Right? They're starting down below and they're starting up above. Starting down below means you start to do the physical actions you need to become a better person. That's the proper way to do it. Right? The first things first, you should, on the 14th of Nisan, clean your house out of chametz, burn it, get rid of it, at least for 7 days. And Pesach Sheni, he said, okay, you weren't so successful in doing it that way, it didn't go how you wanted it, so now at least start from up down. Up down means I know that there's a better way for me to live, I know there's a better way for me to be in this world, and I'm tapping into that already. I'm tasting the better side of me already, even though physically I'm not there. From the internal place. To go in this, even though I'm not really fitting. In truth, I didn't act properly. And from being trusting on the mercy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I will see this salvation. After that, from the way of the light that was revealed to not give up, the ability to continue to go, that taste from up above, I will be successful in coming over and conquering all of my things physically that are holding me back, all of my actions that are keeping me from being that better person. And then my actions will be rectified as well. And then I'll be able to ascend from down, up, according to the regular path.
But this is like a form of tshuva.
100%.
But it can also, I think, I've also thought that Pesach Sheni was for if you're not, when you're not capable for the first one, like...
Exactly, like these people. Like these people in our generation, yeah, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing here. He says there's 2 reasons we had Pesach Sheni. One was the person was tameh, which could be a good reason that they were tameh. Like, right, they buried a person that they had a legitimate reason why they couldn't do it. Or they were derech chukah, they were traveling and they were far, they couldn't do Pesach, which is the hospital, right? So either way, yes, there was a way for you to do this properly.
Yeah.
You, for whatever reason, you missed out on it.
Yeah.
Now you can do it again. The first way to do it is to physically become better. Physically separate yourself from the Yetzer Hara, from the negativity, from the ego, from all of the pride, from the bad things in your life. Separate yourself from it and only focus on matzah, only focus on emunah, only focus on godliness. That's the proper way. If you weren't able for whatever reason to be a part of that first Pesach, you get another Pesach. But here, the work is different. Why is the work different? Because we can't mess with the Yetzer Hara. We can't attack him. Because we still have the chametz inside our house, we still have this ego, we still have the Yetzer Hara, he's with us. So I can't go fight him, because if I fight him, he's going to say, yeah? Since Pesach, how have you been acting?
Yeah.
What have you been doing? How many times have you fallen? You want to talk about actions? You want to physically fight me? Let's talk about your physical actions. Then we're, excuse my French, we're screwed, right? But if we let him stay in the house, say, listen, I'm not kicking you out. You're here. Have fun. Here's your toys. Play. I'm going to be eating matzah. What is matzah? That internal ability to connect to my better self. The emunah, the things that are above my logic. It doesn't make sense logically that I'm deserving of connecting to Hashem. Beyond logic, with emunah, I'm able to say, Hashem, lama nigara, why am I any different? So what? I fell. I fell because I was doing something good for you. I fell because I was doing something for my family and I missed out the opportunity. Whatever reason it is. I fell because I was a horrible person and I acted like an idiot and I went after my Yetzer Hara. Now I want to connect to you. Give me a way, please. Give me a way. I'm not giving up. I'm not going to stop trying to connect to you. Because Baruch Hu, I want to be with you. I want to stay connected to you. Please give it to me. And that's it. That's the situation. That's the whole entire Chag. It's a very, very powerful day because in life we need second opportunities. We need to know that the door is not closed, right? If we think, people in Judaism, a lot of times they think, I was just talking to my wife about this. For example, you have women that that they cover their hair and they wear jeans. So what is she doing? She's a walking paradox. She's not tsanua down below, she's tsanua up above. In the end of the day, she has a mitzvah to dress tsanua, and she has a mitzvah to not walk in the street with her head uncovered. Can she pick and choose? Lechatchila, no, she has to do everything. But in reality, do what you can. Connect however you can. And don't give up, because if you say, I'll never wear a skirt, I'll never be modest, I'll never be tsanua, I'm not a religious woman, so then why would you ever cover your hair? And then you're missing out on one of the mitzvot of the Torah. There's 613 ways to connect to Hashem. You can't pick and choose really, but you have to do what you can. And if doing what you can means that you do this, but you can't do these things yet, emphasis on the word yet, then there's still an opening, there's still a chance for you to be able to do it in the future. But if you're stuck and you say, I'm not going to be this, I'm never going to do this, I lost my chance, I give up, then there's no way for you to do any. And in my personal life, mamash, this was the way for me to do tshuva, that even though I had a period of time where I wasn't keeping Shabbat and I wasn't living the life externally, the actions that I need to be doing, I always knew I was wrong, I knew the Torah was true, and I knew that I was the one that was wrong, not the Torah. The Torah is relevant. The Torah says you keep Shabbat, that means you keep Shabbat in 2020. It doesn't matter what year you're in, it's eternal. I'm not going to change the Torah now to make me feel better about how I want to act. No, I'm wrong. And by knowing that I was wrong and the Torah is true, that always left the door open for me to come back to that truth. But the second you start to alternate and you say, no, that was back then, we don't need to think that way, it's primitive, it's ancient, it's not relevant, then you've given up on connecting to the truth. So B'ezrat Hashem, in our generation, we need this Pesach Sheni, and I was born the day after, so I strongly connect to this teaching as well. B'ezrat Hashem. Chaim Tovim, Shalom. Thank you, everybody.